Speaking of hate and outrage, you didn't like Sonny Boy?
Oh yeah.
Uh-oh.
This is the whole reason we invited you on, to call you out.
Guys, I am pleading on my knees for us to redo this intro. I am begging you.
Hello and welcome to the Weeb Crew. I'm your host, Psyotic. And I'm joined as always by my co-host, Mumi.
Yeah, you're the good host of the,
And
of
our
the
guest,
intro.
And our guest today is PhenomSage.
Hey guys. It's good to be here.
Do we call you Phenom or do we call you Sage? Which do you prefer?
I'm cool with either. Most people call me Phenom though.
Okay. So I guess for like our listeners, viewers, depending on the platform you're checking this out on, for those who are unfamiliar with your channel, I guess how would you describe your stuff?
I mean, I'm just doing the same stuff everybody else is on the platform. I'm kind of just making, maybe that's not a good way to sell myself, but I'm just making anime videos. I'm making kind of like essay content. I analyze stuff that I like. Lately, I've been getting more into like production stuff that kind of interests me, like talking about directors, talking about animators, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
I was kind of talking about Sai with this when I found your channel originally, like a couple years back. Like, I hadn't actually ever heard of your channel before, and I was like, wow, you got like 60,000 subs. I had never come across this channel.
Yeah.
What the fuck? What actually inspired you to like start making content? Like, I saw that your channel was like, you had like AMVs from like 10 years ago, but it seemed like you started doing like actual analysis content like 7 years ago or so.
Yeah, so I've been making videos for a while, like more than the channel indicates, because I used to have another channel way back in the day too. But I actually started on YouTube making just stupid Let's Plays with my friends in real life, and just kind of, messed around with video game stuff. It was that was during high school. I was just kind of messing around on the side as a hobby. And then, after a while, I kind of got tired of it. Everybody starts YouTube. Very few people do YouTube just to do YouTube. Like, obviously you want to grow and you want people to see your stuff. So after a bit of time making those Let's Plays, I saw nobody was watching them. So I was like, all right, I did this. Let's kind of just give it a rest and focus on other stuff. Sure. And then, that was, I'm trying to think of the timeline of events, but basically I had a best friend who started his own YouTube channel around that time. Maybe like a year later, he started his YouTube channel, and he was doing video game and anime content. Like, he was kind of just doing the same thing I was, where he was talking about stuff that he liked. He was, making videos about video game news. He was doing anime episode reviews. Like, he was doing, I remember at the time, it was like Mob Psycho and My Hero Academia season 1. He was doing episode reviews for those. And I remember seeing him doing that, and I was like, man, that looks fun. Like, I kind of want to try that out. Like, I want to do something like that. So I remember, I believe this episode is still, or not this video is still on the channel, but like way back. One of the first, I'm trying to think of the timeline of events here. Like, I remember one of the first anime videos I ever made was on Scum's Wish, Kuzu no Hankai, and I watched that first episode and I was like so in love with it, where I was like, fuck, I really want to talk about this. I want like people to be watching this. So I did like a video that was just like, please watch this. Around that time, I did another video that was like the top 5 anime of fall 2016. Talk about Flip Flappers, Keijo, stuff like that. Like, just, that was a great season for anime, by the way. But
fall. Yeah.
Yeah. And I did those 2 videos. I think I did like an AMV that, like you mentioned, I definitely was, before I even thought about doing episode reviews, I was super into AMV making. So that was something back then. But yeah, then after those 2 videos, I kind of was like struggling to figure out like what kind of anime videos do I make? Because obviously this is fun, but I don't know what I should really be doing. So it was watching his like My Hero Academia and Mob Psycho reviews where I was like, I need something like this. I want to do something like this. Mm-hmm. And then that eventually came with Made in Abyss. Made in Abyss episode 1 is just like probably the greatest first episode I've ever seen to an anime. And I remember watching that and I was like, this is it. I want to talk about this. So I made some first impressions video for that. And I basically just said at the end, like, hey, if people end up watching this, let me know if you want me to do this for the other episodes. And that was back when like Made in Abyss was super unpopular for some reason. Like nobody was talking about it. So I was like a niche who was actually covering that series. So people actually did end up coming to that video. They said, hey, we want to see you make more. And that led to me reviewing that series, which led to other series, which led to now. So that could have been way shorter. Sorry for being so long-winded there.
It's crazy to think that like there was a period of time where Made in Abyss wasn't very popular because I got into an argument. This is what 2017. God, I got into an argument with someone on like the My Anime List forums where I was like, I think this show has every element needed in order to become popular, and someone was like, nah, it's too weird.
It is weird. It definitely is weird, but it is. I just think all of the qualities, one, I think that weirdness is what kind of draws people to it.
Yeah.
But also, like you said, there's just so much excellence in every other compartment.
It's such an interesting world that you kind of do just kind of get like sucked into. You fall down the rabbit hole, proverbially speaking. Well,
that's what I always loved about it, is that like literally on a literal level, they're getting like in the story. The whole point is that the abyss is like this thing that nobody can stop themselves from going into. Like it just inspires this curiosity and wonder that makes people go in and go to their deaths. And then on a thematic level, it's also doing that to the audience as well. You want to keep going further.
You want to see what happens when you go deeper, basically.
Yeah.
And it just keeps getting stranger and stranger.
Yeah.
I didn't actually get sold on the series until season 2.
Yeah, you took a while.
Really?
Yeah, I wouldn't vibe with season 1. I guess like an event. I guess it was weird, but like it wasn't like weird enough. And like
you said, it was like too gamey or something.
Well,
you kind of
like,
felt
it felt like the layers were I don't say gamified, but like they were challenged over like function, I guess is the way to put it. Like it felt like obstacles first before like an actual like ecosystem was kind of constructed.
I guess in contrast, like are you watching Dungeon Meshi this season, Phenom?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's like an interesting sort of like, I think that's a contrast you've made, Mumi, between like how Dungeon Meshi handles its world versus Made in Abyss.
Yeah. I'd say it came around for me in season 2 though. Because now it's like it's actually spending time in like in season 2, it spent time in this golden city, I guess.
Right.
It was actually able to like kind of flesh out that layer, and kind of all the weird kind of alien feeling stuff actually started playing into its favor, as opposed to just kind of being like weird flavoring to me. So I'm glad I stuck around, but like I was just, not that season 1 was like bad. I was just kind of like, eh.
You weren't into it as much as everyone else.
Okay.
Wasn't into it as much as Dungeon Meshi this season. No.
You know, I love Dungeon Meshi, so I won't complain about that.
Dungeon Meshi is fucking great.
Yeah, man.
I desperately need to catch up on it. I'm now like 7 or 8 episodes behind.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
it's been crazy.
It's the real Dungeon Meshi now.
The real Dungeon. I mean, I have a general idea of like what happens.
I'm glad you made that comparison because like for some reason I always feel weird because like people because I've been chilling it pretty hard. So whenever people are like, what is this series? Why should I watch it? That's the first comparison I make is it's like Made in Abyss, but with like, Gordon Ramsay aspects to it. And it's like, it feels kind of weird to say, but like, I really do feel like Made in Abyss is like the closest comparison I can get for Dungeon Meshi.
Well, it's interesting too, because like you can kind of, it's not necessarily apparent early on, but like as the series goes on, you kind of learn that like Rico and Elias are not entirely quite right.
Yeah.
They're a little bit compromised.
Yeah, you need a compromised main character to bring them into this kind of setting.
Yeah. And because like otherwise, like why on earth would they be there?
Yeah.
It's funny you use Made in Abyss. I use Ishuzoku Reviewers as a comparison to Dungeon Meshi.
I still need to watch that. Yeah.
Like, so I guess for me, like they both kind of seem like they're kind of tired of like fantasy stuff being presented in the same way, and so they're kind of focusing on a very niche element of these fantasy worlds,
right?
Yeah.
And are kind of working from there and like branching outwards, right? Where Dungeon Meshi is obviously like, well, what the fuck would you eat in a dungeon anyway?
Yeah.
And then it starts kind of like branching out from there as far as like making ecosystems and a whole like intricate like world.
Yeah, it sounds gimmicky when you like describe it, but like they go so in depth with the cooking aspect and like the ingredient aspect where it's you get sold on the concept just by the virtue of clearly, I don't know how much like research you would do for something like this, but it feels super thought out.
Yeah, well, the cooking's like a vehicle for the world. Like unlike other cooking shows, Dungeon Meshi isn't really about the cooking.
That is
and like unlike other prostitution anime, Ishuzoku Reviewers is not about prostitution.
The Reviewers, that's from the Dragon Maid author, right?
No.
Or artist?
So they've collaborated. So there's the artist for Dragon Maid and then the writer for Ishuzoku Reviewers. And then they teamed up to make this manga called Iraten Deities, which also got an anime adaptation. And it's like if you took
I remember that too.
Yeah, like the most extreme aspects of Dragon Maid and the most extreme aspects of Ishuzoku Reviewers and kind of just melded them together into something horrific. It's great.
Yeah.
I think it actually ended recently too after being on hiatus for like years and years and years, which sucks too because the anime I think did fairly well.
Yeah, that was one of those anime like I don't know how you guys are with this, but like every season, there's always a few things where I like check out the first episode of them just to like see what the deal is. And then I kind of put them on the back burner saying I'm going to get to them eventually. And I never do.
It's that thing. I think we talked about this in the past couple episodes where it's like, if I'm not watching something as it airs, there's a diminishing likelihood I'm going to then watch it later.
It's basically only the like standout stuff that I usually go back to at some point. Like Heavenly Delusion, I really want to go back to.
Yeah, so I've been really bad about that. Like we used to watch like the first episode of stuff and be like, oh, let's watch this, or oh, let's continue this, or I'm not feeling that one.
And then we never do.
And then we never did.
Yeah.
Now I've gotten to where I've started just doing group watches in our server. So like the day it airs, every day that show airs, that evening we'll watch it at like the same time. And so that way it like keeps me on a schedule. And it's just like you're only watching like 1 or 2 episodes a day then, right? Because like, if something airs on Tuesdays, there's like only one other show that airs on Tuesday. So it makes it so much easier for me to watch. And since I'm like keeping up with it, it's like not as like over, because I'll get like, if I were to go back and try to like stuff this season, if I tried to go watch like Windbreakers, like I would not watch it like outside of the seasonal kind of grind, right?
Yeah.
But like I'm enjoying it just like week to week, but like I couldn't sit there and like watch it over any other show I need to watch on my backlog.
Yeah.
I wouldn't watch that even in a seasonal context. But
I'm enjoying it. Okay, it's not like it's the greatest show.
I'm just being a hater. I'm sure it's fine.
It's fine.
I'll say this though. I'll say this in terms of on the topic of being a hater. One show that also fits that bill for me that I tried to push myself through. It was very difficult, but Solo Leveling last season was that for me.
Oh yeah.
Where I was like, because I had a goal for this year. I had a bunch of goals for this year, but one of the goals was that I really wanted to like watch a seasonal that like everybody else is like talking about and watching, that under any other circumstance I would never watch myself. So I saw Solo Leveling and I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is perfect.
It's perfect.
And yeah, and sure enough, if I had chosen not to watch this series, I think my time would have been better suited for it, but I did it.
Yeah.
And I'll probably have to watch season 2.
Oh.
Yeah, we watched it too. I was not a fan.
It's an anime. It's like it's one of those things.
I mean, at least it's pretty.
It definitely
sometimes.
is an anime. Yeah, I'll say that. Yeah, the production was, especially in the second half, I was surprised that it actually got better.
Yeah, that usually didn't happen that way.
Yeah.
I guess it shows some level of care put into production.
Because that was the thing I kept hearing. Like every time whenever I talked about it on the server, the biggest thing I would hear is, "Oh, dude, just turn your brain off, watch the fights, enjoy the fights." And it's like there are barely any fights in this series right now. Like there's a fight like every 2 episodes, and it lasts like 3 minutes. But then they definitely got more lengthy in the second half.
That's something I've heard in the from people who have read like the original manhwa, or maybe I think there's also a manga adaptation. Is that the pacing of the anime is a little bit more like stretched out? It's more brisk.
Oh, it's slow. It's real slow, and I felt it even without like reading that source material.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting though, and I didn't really think about this until we started watching another manhwa adaptation this season, Viral Hit, which
oh my God,
also has a main character getting strong in order to get money to pay for his sick mother's treatment. And now I'm wondering,
is that just a thing? Is that the thing now?
I don't know. Is this like a common? If anyone listening to this is more familiar with manhwa, is this like a common like trope in these kinds of stories? Because it's like 2 seasons in a row with this kind of thing. I'm like, what?
I would believe it. I'll say this about Solo Leveling too. I saw that the sales are apparently like very poor. I'm like, yeah, probably because people wanted this series like 6 years ago, not now.
Yeah, I mean, I have like heard about it for like the longest time, and I didn't.
It's literally like since I've started following anime, it's always been like the one thing that I always heard people talk about. Like, oh, we're Solo Leveling. We're Solo Leveling.
Solo Leveling is peak. When did it start?
It had to have been. It was when I was like first making content, so it had to have been like 7, 8 years ago that I started hearing about it.
It looks like.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, shit.
So is that when you when you started getting into anime then, like around 2016, 2017?
So I've always been kind of like into I started watching anime like right before high school. Like my friend showed me One Piece, and I got super into One Piece before I entered high school, and I binged all of it. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I was kind of like, I didn't know what seasonal anime was. Like I kind of just watched anime as my friend recommended it to me. So like I would always hear about like the big stuff, and I would always watch the big stuff. Like I watched Sword Art Online. I watched Attack on Titan. There was most of what I watched came from his recommendation. So I'd watch like Gurren Lagann, Code Geass, like all these things that were super big, and he was a fan of them and would tell me to watch. And then it was around 2015, late 2015 with One Punch Man, where I actually started like figuring out, oh, these things are airing like on seasonal schedules. After One Punch Man is when I like actually started watching anime seasonally. I remember winter 2016 is when I was watching like Erased, My Hero Academia. What else? Kisniver, I remember, was that season. Like I was just watching. I found my that was when I discovered my anime list, and I discovered, oh wow, there's like so many anime that are airing right now. Let me watch some.
Yeah. Using my anime list as a tool to find new anime, which I think, I'm on like a similar time frame to you as well, because I think at least the earliest memory I can have of watching something as it was airing would have been like ReZero in like
ReZero too.
Spring 2016.
Man.
I think that's when I made like my anime list, my anime list account, and was like talking to people on forums and stuff.
So up to that point, did y'all? I guess like both y'all were around the same time. Did y'all like both think like stuff from like 2015, 2014 was like on the same level of like being a classic if it was recommended to you as like something from 20 years prior?
What do you mean? What do you mean?
So, okay, like, I don't know if this is your experience, like when you watch seasonals, right? But like, if I watch something when it's airing, like say last year, or
oh, I get what you mean. Like you're wondering, like now, do I consider those series classics now in the same way that other people do, like in the 90s and stuff?
So yeah, like when I got into it, like in around 2013, 2012, and like people would recommend like Gurren Lagann and Mirai Nikki. Like I didn't make a distinction between those because like I didn't have any like preconceptions or anything. So like it's like, oh, these are just like classics, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, did you have that experience as well, or?
Yeah, pretty much, I think. Like I wasn't that's back when like I didn't know anything about anime, so I kind of just, I took his recommendations and I wasn't even really thinking about the concept of like what is a classic and what is popular and what, like, because I didn't really have anybody to talk to about those series anyways except for him.
Yeah.
So I just watched what, like, Hunter x Hunter, Mirai Nikki, Angel Beats, like all these series, they were just like on the same field of like, obviously I loved the ones that I loved stuck with me way longer, but those were all kind of just like, oh, I'm watching anime. This is all Japan.
Yeah. It all kind of just blends together.
I was be tempted to say no, but now I'm looking at like my Anime Planet account, which I made. Oh shit, that's 2015.
Oh, that's a throwback there.
Yeah, and I've not updated it since probably 2015. And I'm looking at some of these scores and I'm going, what the fuck was I thinking? I have a Kami Ga Kill at like 3 stars, but then both seasons of Sword Art Online at 4 stars.
4 out of 5. 4 out of 5, baby.
Yeah. Devil's a Part-Timer, 4 stars. Gurren Lagann, 4.5. Kiss X Sis, 3 stars. I don't even know if I finished it.
I love that. I love that, though. I love being in like this state of naivety where it's like literally everything is just like, oh yeah, this is good. I'm liking this.
Right, yeah.
Even like now, like I remember back in the day, I was watching Angel Beats, and that was like one of my first anime. It has to have been like first 5 anime I ever watched. And I remember watching it, and I remember that I distinctly remember a feeling where I was not super into it, but then like there were like a couple episodes where I remember just crying my eyes out. And afterwards, after that, I would just fondly remember that series where it's like, yeah, man, that series made me cry. It's so good. I love that series. But now that when I think back to it, I think if I were to rewatch that series now, I would really not like it, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, Angel Beats kind of falls apart, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, there's some good stuff in it.
I
think Angel Beats is just funny as shit.
Oh, it is funny. It is like
there's a really good comedy in it, but
I do remember there being like surprise. I wasn't expecting it to be as funny
like
as it was.
The rocket share bit still gets me.
Yeah,
Seiji Kishi is like a really good director.
Yes.
Like I feel like people kind of like almost undersell Angel Beats because like it does have a lot of problems because it was kind of originally supposed to be 26 episodes.
Yeah, and they had to compress that down.
Yeah,
I mean, I would love to be proven wrong, to like rewatch that and be like, oh wow, it actually is good still. But like, there's just a feeling that I have where if I were to revisit it, it would not hold up.
I would hesitate to call it good. I think it's pretty good. Like I think it's like better than people give it credit.
I feel the same way. Sorry, I feel the same way. Maybe this is a hot take, but I feel that I might feel the same way about Code Geass as well. Because I remember loving
I
Code
like
Geass. Yeah, and I'm like, when I think back on Code Geass, it's like I remember like very few moments where I love it, and then everything else I just either remember things I didn't like or just I don't remember it at all.
See, this is where you can like watch our subscriber count go down in real time. Because
I'm sorry, guys.
I don't like Code Geass either. So, because I've watched that. I actually watched that early on too. So like it was kind of in the prime position for me to be able to enjoy it. And like watching it, it's like it was like fine.
Mm-hmm.
I actually prefer I think I prefer Valve Rave.
What's that?
Because,
I don't know what that is.
It was a Sunrise anime. It's wasn't it written by the same guy who did Code Geass? Or was it directed by?
Let me see. I think it's no, it was written by Okochi.
Yeah. It's very kind of similar-ish in a sense of like it's like a train wreck kind of mecha show. But instead of like the Geass like eye powers, here's the link to it.
Let me check this
they're
out.
space vampires.
Oh, hold on.
And not the Lelouch, the main character is basically Suzaku. But like Suzaku, if he were possessed by a space vampire and like had to, like when he bit people, he like spread his space vampirism where they could pilot samurai mechs.
Okay, you're selling me on this.
They're fighting this organization where one of the agents is named L-Elf.
I see it.
The letter
L-Elf.
L-Elf. There's one
Is it
point where he
pronounced
gets
that way? Do they say that in the show?
L-Elf, yes. Yeah. There's one point.
I see A. Dre too. Is there a character called A. Dre?
A. Dre? Yeah, they're all like lettered and something.
Hold on.
In this organization, so you got Q Veer, X Signs, H Nguyen. The show is known for a few things. There's a GIF of L-Elf after he was like captured by like this enemy spies or something, and they have him tied to a chair. He I think there's like 6 people like guards in the room with guns. He like somehow gets a screw loose on the chair, throws it into the light, and then like catches a blade of glass and cuts people. It just escapes.
It's just like something out of like Jet Li's The One.
It's really unhinged. Another scene that's known for, which is why it's affectionately called a Valve Rape, is
affectionately.
Yeah, it just has essay in the middle of a fucking election thing going on outside during fireworks.
What?
And it's just like what the fuck?
What was blood cooking?
It's also known for its banger ass OPs and EDs because it's got like 4 EDs I think and 2 openings, and they're all fucking great, and they're done by Nana Mizuki and TM Evolution. I
feel like mentally I get Valve Rave. I haven't seen either of these, but I get Valve Rave mixed up with Crossange.
They did air around the same time, and they're kind of similar.
They're both like Sunrise anime, and it's like they both seem to be completely absurd.
I mean, I'm sold. So
I think isn't Nana Mizuki the voice actress for the? Am I going crazy? No, yeah, she's the voice actress for Angelise. Cross Ange.
Yeah.
The Ange who was crossed. Yeah, fucking Sunrise was cooking some crazy ass fucking mecha in the late 2010s.
I mean, they always were.
Always were.
Being honest.
That fucking Xenoglossia show, which still baffles me. I don't. Oh yeah. Let's make an Idolmaster anime and then have no idol component. It's just a mecha show. And
Yeah,
it's the
let's
first
make it.
Idol
Let's make
Master
a.
anime.
Let's make an adaptation of this popular game, but let's have none of the characters be. Let's have all the characters, but none of them are the actual characters.
Right.
Let's have it have nothing to do with that game at all. Let's
No
have
idols.
this
Well, I guess-
convoluted storyline. None of the original songs. Like I have to truly wonder what was going on over there at the time.
I think it's wonderfully summed up in the one scene where she's meeting with like the Gendo, basically the Gendo character,
The
one
Gendo,
guy.
exactly.
Yeah, and they're like sitting in front of the mecha, and he just points at it, goes idol, and he points at the main character and goes master.
Master, yeah, that's literally where it all started. Is that they came up with a funny little gag for what an idol master means.
And then there we go. All right, cut it, print it, let's go. Now it's a fucking 2-core show.
Speaking of Mecha, you in your recent video, you were talking about how you started watching, or you watched, I should say, the Universal Century and Macross last year.
Yeah. I watched a lot of Gundam and Macross last year. Definitely a mixed experience.
You didn't really go into detail about Universal Century. I'm assuming you watched like the original.
So I watched the original 1979 series. I watched Zeta Gundam. I watched Double Zeta. I watched Char's Counterattack. I watched War in the Pocket, and I'm trying to distinguish it because I've watched a few more this year, but I think that's all I watched last year. But this year I've watched I basically the reason why I wanted to watch Universal Century Gundam is because I've just heard so many things about other entries in the series where I basically heard, yeah, these series are amazing, but you have to watch those first. So it's like, fuck, fine, I'll get through it. So now now that I'm through all that like prerequisite stuff, I can watch the actual stuff that I wanted to watch, like Hathaway and Unicorn. Fucking awesome. I think I watched one more. I want to watch Turn A too. Lots of good Gundam.
Turn A seems really cool. Yeah.
Turn A is actually my favorite Gundam series. So.
It's most people that I talk to have Turn A as their favorite, which is why it's always been kind of the one thing that I really want to get to.
It seems uncharacteristically cheery for Tomino, especially coming off like, what did he do right before it? Was it brain powered?
I've heard that it's a very kind of like, it's a very like positive kind of like, it's positive, but it's differently positive than Unicorn. Unicorn is like super idealistic and super kind of like, man, humanity is great. But whereas I've heard Turn A is a different kind of positive, and I've heard both of them, Turn A and Unicorn, both serve as kind of like finales to the storyline of Universal Century Gundam. I've heard that about Victory Gundam too. Victory Gundam is another like ending point.
Turn A is like simultaneously like it's I think it's Tomino's, from what I've seen at least, it's Tomino like at his silliest, in the sense of like, you know, they use the Gundam to wash clothes and they transport cows in the fucking missile holder and shit, like so it's using the mech in a very like practical yet kind of silly way, but it's also like the most like personal or like kind of like gentle or tender, I guess, where it's like bartender. It's a war, because like a lot of the Gundam series like are about war and like its effects and stuff, but this one's like it's very delicate in like how it's like presenting it, where it seems like it's a very like much more personal kind of thing, a journey, than like 0079 or Zeta or anything like that.
Yeah.
Ideon.
Because they will have like arcs where they kind of show the effects of the war going on, whereas like Turn A, you're kind of just like always seeing the effects of the war because it's such a smaller scale, or the conflict, I should say. There's not really like a major war going, like it's not the same as like the UC kind of stuff.
Is it in the same timeline?
So Turn A is called Turn A because it's a scientific term for like all encompassing, I think. Just that's probably not the exact. So what it's doing is like it was a 25th anniversary the 20th anniversary for Gundam.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be Tomino's like farewell to the franchise. And so he wanted to basically, since it had already kind of started branching off at that point, like you had, G Fighter and Gundam Wing and stuff like that. He kind of wanted to bring it all together. And so Turn A is supposed to be the end point for all of Gundam.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Because in like logical mathematical notation, the upside down, the turned A basically means like for all, essentially. So like for all items in this set, and this applies. Yeah, that makes sense. That's interesting. Yeah. I always just never actually really thought about why the fuck was it turned A.
I never really questioned it.
So the reason why people say like it's better to watch Gundam, like certain amount of Gundam, whatever, before watching Turn A is because kind of the more specifically the stuff that aired before Turn A, because the more that you watch, the more you'll get
the conclusion.
Yeah, and there's like little Easter eggs and stuff, like they'll pull out a mech, because the way that they get mechs in that show is they dig them out of the ground. They pull out a mech, and you're like, oh, that's the fucking mech from episode 72 of this series, and like,
yeah,
you don't have to watch it to appreciate, like, have a great appreciation for the show, but you'll get more out of it the more you kind of watch.
Does that include SD Gundam?
SD Gundam?
Oh yeah, SD Gundam. Yeah. You had to watch the Three Kingdoms version.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I still have more to watch before I can watch the good one then. No. The way you describe it is definitely something I've heard about it for a while, and it's like the same way I feel about Unicorn, where I fucking loved Unicorn, but it's definitely, and I want people to watch it so badly, but there's part of me that does think it really only functions as well as it does by watching it after all of that other stuff. So you can appreciate kind of thematically why it is the way that it is. Because Tomino, I feel like, was always, I didn't really fully grasp this until like kind of having a discussion about it with a friend. But I feel like what he was trying to convey with Gundam and with what he was trying to convey with like new types and stuff is like we want war to stop. We want everybody to get along. We want to be able to understand each other on a very personal level. It's kind of like the orange juice in End of Evangelion. Like you kind of want everybody to be connected in a way where war isn't even a thing because we just all empathize with each other at all times. And I feel like that's what he was trying to convey with new types. And Unicorn really, really goes into that big time with like the way new types interact with each other and how we want to empathize with each other and like, hopes for the future, hopes for humanity, all that kind of stuff. And I've heard that Turn A is similar in like, because that's one endpoint that he wanted to make for Gundam. It kind of has this very uplifting outlook on where everything leads. Like it's not a very dreary, war-driven, like kind of like Zeta, Double Zeta in the second half. Those series get really goddamn depressing.
Right.
And I think that was something that you kind of just have to go through that overarching journey to appreciate where he wanted to eventually end it, where it's like, no, we can do better than that. So I do appreciate that aspect of Universal Century a lot.
Mm-hmm. I really liked. I'm glad you watched the series because I fell for. Granted, I watched it a while back.
Oh yeah, so. you got debated, didn't you?
Yeah, I fell for the fucking meme of like, oh, the series isn't canon because Tomino was embarrassed by shit like the Gundam hammers. So just watch the recap movies because the third movie is the ending anyway.
The original, the 79 recap movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I watched the 3 recap movies and like I there was like I felt like I would like it more if I watched the series, but I was like, oh well, the series is supposed to be good anyway, so I'm just watching this to get to Zeta. And I watched Zeta, was like completely disappointed. I'm like, I don't really care about this series.
Yeah.
And I've gone back since and watched. I haven't finished it. I've been watching it very slowly, but what I've watched, I'm like, I like 0079 so much more than the rest of like the UC timeline, like Zeta and all that. And I'm so upset I fell for the fucking meme of like, oh, just watch this recap movie.
That happened to me too, where like I expressed interest in like, I need to watch, I want to watch Unicorn, I want to watch Thunderbolt, and the Gundam fans were like, then just watch these recap movies and then get to these recap movies and then watch this and then you can watch that. And I watched that first 79 recap movie. I really did not like it, if I have to be honest. And it definitely like made me feel like I really shouldn't be watching these. Like if I'm going to do it, I should probably go all the way with it.
Yeah.
I definitely liked the series more than I did that recap movie. Like recap movies in general, I'm kind of like turned away from ever checking them out unless it's something I've already seen.
Unless it's something weird like the Evangelion recap movie.
Yeah.
It almost kind of sounds like a Patlabor 2 situation where I've had people say like, oh yeah, Patlabor 2 is a standalone movie. You can just watch it on its own. It's like, having seen it, and you can, but I also watched the first OVA series and then the first movie prior to that.
I actually
as well.
like the OVA series more than
they're really
movies.
good. I don't understand why people are like, oh yeah, just watch Patlabor 2. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Says the guy who fucking watched Beautiful Dreamer and hasn't watched all of Urusei Yatsura.
Hey, I did that for one because it was like a roulette thing on our server, and two, I did watch episodes of Urusei Yatsura. It's also just being like, well, you watched Castle of Cagliostro without watching like Lupin 1 and 2?
Well, I've watched I've watched episodes of Lupin 2.
I mean, yeah, and I've seen episodes of Urusei Yatsura. So shut the fuck up.
I've also seen all of like multiple Lupins, just not the first one.
There's things that can exist in a vacuum though, like Castle of Cagliostro. You can watch that and enjoy it fine.
Well, I think even Patlabor 2, it does exist in a vacuum, but I think there's a lot that's a part of it as well in terms of both like where the characters are at and also just like where the franchise is at by that point. Yeah, that would otherwise just kind of be lost.
It paints a very different world when you know who Noah is and you see her just kind of beaten down and sad.
Yeah, or like the whole scene where it's like it's just tearing apart like the Ingrams and stuff, and it's like I see what it's doing now. Whereas I feel like that wouldn't be. You would also probably just have like a very different. Didn't you? Was your experience moving with Patlabor, where it's like you had a very different image of what the series was going to be because of things like
it was total
like
whiplash because like people recommend Patlabor and you see stuff from Patlabor 2 and it's Oshii, so you're like, oh, this is probably just gonna be like Ghost of the Shell with mechs. Yeah. And I watched the OVA first because I watched it in chronological order.
Right.
And I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
Why is there a sea monster? Why is there just an episode with ghosts?
And then I watched the TV series and like I kind of fell in love with the TV series. I was like, oh, this is great. I love this. And then I watched the movie. Well, I think I watched the movie before the TV series.
Yeah, because I think the first movie comes out before the TV series.
Which that didn't bother because it was a little bit more serious, but like it was kind of more in line with the OVA, right?
Yeah.
But then I watched the TV series, and like I really enjoyed the comedic aspects, and like I fell in love with the cast. And then I watched Patlabor 2, and I'm like, what the fuck? This is just Ghost of Show with Bex. What the fuck happened?
Yeah, I honestly. I don't know how much you guys love the movies, but I actually didn't love the movies, if I have to be completely honest. Just because I do feel like some of it went over my head as far as like the political context of when those movies came out and like what Oshii was trying to say with them, but they're just really, really dry. Like, I appreciate the craft. I appreciate the craft. I really do, but I just in contrast to watching them right after I watched that OVA series where just like I'm watching such witty, clever dialogue, really funny sequences, just great vibes. Like it definitely was a very stark contrast going to those movies.
Yeah.
I can see that, especially with that second one where it is.
Yeah, the second one especially.
It's so. I mean, there are bits of comedy in it, but it is much more like dour and contemplative.
Yeah.
And it's like, we're just going to watch Snowfall for the next 5 minutes.
Yeah. And they also don't really. I remember the first one has a pretty big like climax, but I remember the second one doesn't really kind of like have a climax or a conclusion in a way that like I left like, oh, that was what it was leading to. Like it kind of just ends, I remember.
It kind of just ends very like, oh, and then it's goodbye.
Yeah.
It's also barely a mecha movie. Like there's
barely
not really any mecha stuff in it till the very end.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's what I find interesting. I'm also just a Mamoru Oshii fan. Oshii is my Oshii. It's what some may say.
Don't get him started on this again.
Oh yeah.
How do you feel about Vlad Love? Is that what it was called?
Vlad Love is.
I hated it.
It's certainly interesting. Well,
I loved it for the first few episodes, and then like there was a point where I kind of just like stopped liking it. I was trying to figure out like why I stopped liking it, because I did really like those first few episodes of it, but then it kind of got caught in a rhythm that I didn't like or something. I can't. It's been a while.
You get to the episode where they're just doing day for night. They're not even hiding it. They literally bring up, they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna do day for night, and it's like, okay, because Mamoru Oshii is like a big like film guy, and in a lot of ways, everything he makes is kind of like just informed by like other movies he's seen. Like Angel's Egg is like so Tarkovsky. Ghost in the Shell might as well be like his Blade Runner, and so we'll just like put stuff in. So like when you get the stuff like Vlad Love, it's like, yeah, we're just gonna do like esoteric French cinema now. Why not? Let's go.
Yeah.
Why not?
And especially if you went in expecting kind of like a Yuri comedy between like a vampire and a girl who really likes to donate blood, you're gonna be deeply alienated.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite work of his. I didn't hate it, but it's also kind of like, what are we doing here? Like, it's not on the level of something like Gosenzo-sama Banbanzai, where it's like, just really bizarre to the point where it becomes. I watched Gosenzo Banbanzai with some other people, and maybe a part of what made me enjoy like something like Gosenzo-sama is the fact that I was enjoying it. No one else I was watching it with was. That made me enjoy it more. There was almost like a Schadenfreude aspect to it. Vlad Love's all right. And then what's the thing that they're doing now? It's Hikari no O. I still need to watch the second season of that. I watched the first season. I'm like,
oh, he's
doing
doing
interesting.
He wrote it.
He wroed it.
It's being directed by
Junji Nishimura.
His buddy.
Yeah, they've collaborated a lot.
Okay.
I think, and it's interesting. We watched that first episode and we're like, wow, this is a really strong start. And then it kind of
peters out.
It's like, oh,
does like a Dazaki frame on a toilet at one point. You're like, why are we doing this?
There's some weird Dazaki frames, but even just in terms of like pacing and stuff, it's like, I feel like I really need to watch that second season in order to really wrap my head around what the hell it was going for even.
He was really inspired by Space Moby Dick, one of Dazaki's later works, where they just Dazaki frame on random shit.
I mean, anyone's who's like familiar with like his like live action stuff that he's been putting out for the past like however many years, more so than he's worked on anime, is like, okay, yeah, he really just does not give a shit about like pleasing an audience. He kind of just wants to do things that seemingly just make him laugh and no one else.
I don't know how he gets away with it.
I don't know how he gets away with it either. I don't know. Like
he keeps giving this man money.
Yeah. But I'll be there no matter what. He wrote a book. He's put out 2 books now just talking about the YouTube channels he likes. And I'm like, all right.
We should all take lessons from this.
Yeah, why not, honestly? Fuck it.
We need to publish books to get people to watch YouTube channels. I take it that you liked Macross more than as a franchise than UC Gundam.
Like, yeah, if I were to have to like consider like just the franchise as a whole, then yeah, like pretty much every Macross I was at the very least enjoying my time with, except I didn't watch it last year, but I did watch the first Macross I watched was Macross Plus with from Shinichiro Watanabe, Yoko Kanno. I basically just had to watch it for their names, and I actually didn't love that one.
Really?
But last year I watched which ones was it? I watched Macross because a friend of mine who's super into Macross, I really wanted to watch Macross Frontier for Yoko Kanno, and he was like, okay, if you want to watch that, then at least watch these two things first. So I watched Macross Do You Remember Love, the movie, and I watched Macross Zero, and then I watched Macross Frontier, because there are like actual like surprising references and like kind of callbacks to those two things in Frontier. So I was glad that I watched those, but I enjoyed all of those a lot.
See, I watched Frontier was actually my introduction to the series. So I watched that before anything else. And I actually feel like when I went and watched the original afterwards, it actually like I kind of realized like, oh, they were kind of lifting this from the original.
Oh, I believe it. It definitely feels like kind of like a throwback series as far as, you know, we're bringing back all the things that you like.
Yeah, so it kind of hindered my enjoyment of it in retrospect a little bit, but I still enjoy Frontier. Like I still think it's a good anime. I especially like Cheryl's Maya Sakamoto and like Mayan stuff.
Yeah. Oh my God, the music. Incredible.
Yeah, the music. But you did. So you watched Do You Remember Love, but you didn't watch the original series.
I didn't watch the original series. I know, but Do You Remember Love was really fucking good. I love that movie.
Do You Remember Love is really good. Do You Remember Love? I feel like it's so much better having watched the series because like so canonically
how does this keep happening?
Huh?
I would say this is like every mecha franchise seems to have this Gundam, Patlabor, Macross.
But hold on, I have heard that it's different with Do You Remember Love didn't feel like a recap movie to me. It felt very deliberate in how it was made.
Yeah, it's not a recap in the same sense as like the Gundam movies because those are like compilation films, right?
Yeah.
Do You Remember Love is like a retelling in universe. So the interesting thing about Do You Remember Love is it is essentially like the movie Titanic. Like in universe, in the Macross universe, so in the canon from like Macross 7 forward, Do You Remember Love is kind of considered like the quote unquote perception of the events of the original Macross.
So it's like an in-universe movie.
Yes. It is an in-universe movie. It's basically like the retelling of the events of the actual events. But like whenever they reference the original series later on, they're always referencing Do You Remember Love? Because that's what everybody knows because they watched the movie in universe. Like I think it's in Macross 7, they actually go to a showing of Do You Remember Love? And then like they're like performing like a play or something where one of the girls is Lin Minmay. So it's interesting in that way. I think it paints a weird picture. Like if you were to try and take away what the original series was from the movie, the characters are very like Flanderized, which makes sense because like when you're making a movie, like it's done intentionally. Where like someone like
you
Falker,
only have so
right?
much time.
Yeah, Roy Falker is basically just boiled down to his essential elements of like lady, womanizer, and drunkard, and so the entire time he's on screen, he's just drunk. But like the series is so much better. Like honestly, like writing wise.
Okay.
Because like they actually go into like the kind of the more detail as far as like the cultural victory of the humans or whatever, and then they actually go past the point of Do You Remember Love, which a lot of people seem to have like problem with. I enjoy it. I can see why people don't like it because it's not as like good as far as like a complete story. But I don't know. I just love Do You Remember the original Macross so much more. Like I really like Do You Remember Love, and it's interesting because you have the effect of like having watched Do You Remember Love with the better visuals. You almost like retrograde, like remember
You remember
the
it better
events.
than it looked.
Well, you remember the TV series like with those visuals because like they exist.
Yeah.
Like, it's weird.
Because I think I was like shown like a video or like a bit from Do You Remember Love, and I didn't know it was from Do You Remember Love. I'm like, holy fuck, Macross looks fucking fantastic. What the hell? This is a TV series made in like 81.
Yeah, that was a crazy fucking movie at the time.
I've only seen Macross Plus, but maybe I'll watch the rest of the stuff because Macross is actually coming. All of Macross is coming to Disney Plus sometime this year. Disney Plus available,
All of it
for as low as
except
$7.99 a month.
Do You Remember Love?
And the original series, yeah,
and the original
'cause of
series,
the whole rights snafu.
I'm actually surprised they don't have Do You Remember Love.
Because I think Harmony Gold also has like the rights to do. I don't understand it.
No, they don't. They don't have Do You Remember Love. They have the original though.
Right. I don't.
Maybe I'm thinking of the original and not Do You Remember Love.
No, I think no, because I'm reading it right now. It says like neither SDF Macross or Do You Remember Love is going to be. They will be in Japan, but not internationally. So everything else though will be on Disney Plus, including Macross 2, which I did not know existed for the longest time.
Macross 2, Electric Boogaloo.
No, it's Lovers Again.
I am really excited for that new Macross series that's coming out. I'm excited to be there for it. Yeah, there's a new one.
They've announced it already?
Yeah.
I haven't been paying attention.
Because they didn't even really say anything of substance. They just said, yeah, it exists. We're making it.
They make it Macross every 10 years or so, it seems like.
Yeah. Well,
I think it was 2008 or 2007 for Frontier and then 2016 for Delta. Do you have any plans on watching more of the Macross?
Yeah, I do want to watch Delta, and I want to watch Macross 7. I've heard really good things about. And maybe I'll go back and watch that original series at some point.
Yeah, you should.
You've convinced me.
Delta was in. I watched Delta was airing, and like, I feel like it almost baits you with the first episode because like it's a really good first episode, and like it almost kind of makes it seem like it's. Do you remember the Dance Like You Want to Win episode of Evangelion?
Yeah.
Where they had to sync up and dance.
Yeah, my favorite Evangelion episode.
That's my favorite episode too. I fucking love that episode.
It's a good
the
episode.
first episode of Delta almost kind of makes it seem like that series is gonna be like that, and it didn't really live up to that. And I was like, oh.
I mean, I have not heard the best things about Delta, if I have to be honest, but I want to watch it
great.
Just to watch it, and also because I know that Earth, Wind, Fire meme with the September song.
Yeah, it does sound a lot like it.
Yeah.
Which a lot of the music actually, Delta's almost worth watching just for the music because I really love the Walkure music they did for that. The main girl in Walkure, not Freya. I'm blanking on her name. Oh, Mikumo, I think. Her singing and voice was done by, I think she was like 16 at the time, and she's like so bassy. Like she does not sound like she'd be like as young as she is. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
But their stuff is so fucking good. It's almost worth like, yeah. Just I used to play this game called Uta Macross. It was like this gacha like rhythm game for the Macross series, so you just played all the fucking Macross songs on there.
For mobile?
Yeah. That was how I consumed a lot of the fucking music. Just played that over and over again.
I mean, it definitely feels like a series that, like, no matter what, never misses on the music.
It's an interesting aspect of it too, because like they kind of evolve it with the times.
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
like you got Minmay, who's kind of like the old fashioned kind of idols, and then they go to like 7 where it's like the rock stars, and plus has like the Vocaloids. It's a kind of an underrated, like people will complain sometimes about like, oh, they made it like an idol show or something. It's like, well, it's always been an idol show.
That's one of the big parts of the god. What? Yeah.
I think
like,
they're saying that the music feels like too generic because it's like copying contemporary stuff, but like you said, it was always doing that.
Yeah, it's just you're watching it now 30 years later, 40 years later now. God damn it.
I don't know if that's the case. Well, I don't know. Would that be the case even for like Macross Plus though? Because Macross Plus has like schizo music.
I could see like house music and stuff from the 90s being like that.
I guess, yeah, but it's like maybe I'm just like thinking of like
it wasn't like mainstream, I guess,
right.
but it's
not like pop music as you would think of it, and especially with like the Koji Morimoto visuals in that movie or OVA.
Oh wait, but they did actually announce something interesting with the new Macross series. From what I recall, I think Adu is doing all the vocals for one of the characters.
Oh.
I'll double check this just so I'm not spreading misinformation. But
yeah, because I was trying to look stuff up about this new series because there's a new Code Geass series coming out right now, also on Disney Plus. That I had heard literally fucking nothing about up until like a couple days ago. Because
I heard somebody mention it at some point. I don't even remember where.
I'm like, what do you mean?
It was like in a video, I think.
Or maybe it's just because, like, for the longest time, I've just always been hearing, like, oh, yeah, they're going to do a sequel to Code Geass. There's going to be new Code Geass coming out, more Code Geass, just for years and years and years and years and years. And just then no one ever talks about it, even when it does happen, that I've just probably heard about it and was like, yep, again?
Synopsis, new Code Geass project.
Yeah,
it hasn't aired, that's why. It starts in 8 days, I guess.
Yeah, it's because it's going to be
like dating the podcast.
It's going to be like similar to like the Tommy Time Machine Blues, which also aired on Disney Plus, which you can get a subscription for as low as $7.99 per month.
We're not sponsored by them.
No, we're not. But the Tommy Time Machine Blues also aired as a movie in Japan, but was broken up into like 6 episodes for Disney Plus. So then what the new Code Geass is going to do is there's going to be like 4 movies that will then be broken up into however many episodes and put up onto Disney Plus, because fuck it, why not? I have no idea. It's so confusing.
Guys, I may have lied. I can't find any news about this Adu thing, but I swear I heard that.
Oh,
I promise you.
Would people do that? Just go on the internet and lie?
Oh, yeah.
I promise you. But there is actually something interesting that I did find, is that it's being animated by Sunrise now when it's never been in the past.
That would be interesting.
That would be Sunrise. Huh. I mean,
yeah.
All right.
I mean, it does bounce around from studio to studio, so that doesn't sound like...
I think it's because Sunrise is just the only studio that actually consistently does mecha now. Like, they have all those people there.
Sunrise, alternatively known as Bandai Namco Filmworks.
Was Frontier the first big satellite series, or would that have been like AKB48?
This is before Symphogear, right?
This is before, Symphogear is 2012.
Satellite the studio.
Yeah.
I was like, what do you mean? Like it was broadcasted over satellite?
I think their first anime was Noin, if I remember right. But I don't know what was like, because I don't think Noin, like I remember it being localized and pushed, but it was never like a big property.
I was right. I found it. Adu is singing one of the character songs in the new Macross series. And the ED is by Yoasobi.
Oh, Yoasobi.
God, literally was announced today. Yoasobi's doing the now we're just straight up dating it again. Fuck it, why not? Yoasobi is doing the opening and either the opening or the ending. One of the theme songs for the new Monogatari anime.
Yeah, I saw that.
They're just they're everywhere now.
I guess the first. Okay, I was wrong. Noin wasn't even like their first anime. Goddamn, I fucking suck. Their first big hit, I guess, was probably Hellsing Ultimate, or maybe Shugakara. I don't know how big Shugakara really was, but other than that, it'd just be Frontier, I guess.
Yeah. Also, I did not know satellite was an acronym. S meaning Sapporo, A meaning animate, T for technology, and E for entertainment.
And then light.
Yeah, light. Because I guess the studio was founded in Sapporo, but is now, of course, located in Tokyo.
As it happens.
As it happens.
When will Kyo Animation be in Tokyo?
Well, that was the thing that happened with like Gaina, because it was originally Fukushima Gainax, and now it's and then they moved back to Tokyo and just rebranded to Gaina, and now the Fukushima branch is just called Gaina Fukushima, and I think may also just be a separate thing.
This comes full circle.
Yeah, there's not a lot of anime studios based outside of Tokyo. There's Kyoto Animation. GoHands is based out of Osaka, which is interesting. Like the biggest, or maybe the only animation studio in Osaka.
GoHands holding it down.
Well, that's what I've always kind of like I've described them as like the Kyoto Animation of Osaka, because they work with a lot of there's a lot of talented people working at GoHands, even though people hate the way their shows look for reasons that are understandable. But they work with like, a lot of
you'll usually see like just some pretty competent animation just underneath some of the most atrocious visual design you've ever seen in your life.
Very garish compositing. But I think they I think in Kyoto Animation does this as well, where they like work with like local universities and will then just pull like talent directly from those universities, which is then how they're able to get such people with like a certain skill level.
And they train them in studio as well.
Yeah, I think GoHands does like almost all their stuff in-house too. Cool studio, GoHands, honestly.
Very, very interesting studio.
If only they made something I could look at and not feel sick. Yeah.
Speaking of Tokyo, I think you mentioned in like your 2022 recap video you were going to Japan and going to make something on it.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned it again in this recent one.
Yeah, so I might still do something with that. It wasn't really like anything specifically about my trip. I just thought I had an idea for a video where I could talk about something I wanted to talk about and then use that like trip footage as kind of like background video for it. I still might do that at some point, but I'm not going to commit to it at this point. But yeah, went to Tokyo. It's cool.
How did you? I guess you were there for. Did you say 3 weeks or 6 weeks this second time?
I went there. I went there for the first time. I went there earlier last year. I went there just for a week with my friend, and then I like decided I wanted to go back because obviously 1 week is like not nearly enough time to really getting everything that country has to offer. So I went back throughout the entirety of December, and that was a really, really fun time as well. And I still feel like I didn't really experience everything.
What were like the highlights that you did around Tokyo?
So in Tokyo, I really, because the whole point of why I went back is because there was this big Idolmaster Love Live kind of like collaboration concert. And I knew that something like that probably wasn't going to happen again, at least for not a very long time. So I was like, fuck, I should go. I really want to be a part of that. So that was kind of like the driving force. And then after that, it was kind of like just going to a bunch of the sites that I wanted to see but couldn't before. Like I went to Tokyo Tower. I went to Comic-Con. I don't know if you guys know what Comic-Con is, but it's basically the biggest convention. That was really wild. In Tokyo, man, there was a lot, dude. I don't even know. Like New Year's was crazy. I went to this. I only found out afterwards that it was like, I don't know if you guys have seen Love Live, but it's the shrine where the stairs are that they like train by climbing up those stairs up and down. I only found
one
that
in Akihabara.
Is it in Akihabara? I don't know where it is, but like I was Googling like where do I go for New Year's, and I found that shrine. So I was like, fuck, I'll go there. Really fucking long line to get there. But that was really cool. And then when I was leaving, I just turned the corner and I saw those stairs and I was like, no goddamn way. So that was a really funny coincidence there. And then I since it was kind of like a bigger trip, I was like, I need to go see other places too. So I went to Osaka and like I got a hotel there so I could go to Nara. I went to Numazu, which is where Love Live Sunshine is based. That was that was probably my favorite spot of the trip, is going to Numazu. That was a beautiful, beautiful location. And then obviously you want to go to Kyoto multiple days for some of the stuff there as well.
Yeah.
I really wanted to go to Kyoto, but we kind of had like a crossroads where it was like, do we go to Kyoto? We're going to be there for like the way it was like working out, we are going to go for the weekend. And it was going to be booked. Like we couldn't hardly find any hotels before we even went. And I was like, do we want to go Kyoto, which I haven't been, I want to see, or do we just go back to Akihabara? We ended up just going back to Tokyo.
I don't blame you, because I could spend like a month in Akihabara alone. All those like stores and little side streets and stuff. It's really cool there.
I spent so much fucking money in Akihabara.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. How much did you spend, Mumi?
Actually I've only like shopping.
I would be surprised if you spent more than me.
Shopping, I only really spent, and the 3 times I went, I probably only spent like $1,800 to $2,000.
Okay,
so I didn't spend
so
like
we're about wait, $1,800 to $2,000. Yeah, so we're about on the same level then.
Yeah,
and that was just one trip for you, right?
Yeah. Don't even get me started on like getting all that shit back.
Oh god,
in my suitcases.
This like stuff is cheaper in Japan too than when you get like a con here. So because I could spend $1,000 at a con, still have like decent sized bags filled up, but if I spend $1,000 in Akihabara, especially now with a really low ass yen, I don't know what I would fucking do with everything, honestly. How I would get any of that back.
It's those books, dude. They waste. I passed the overweight charge on both of my suitcases back, so that sucked.
I went to the Love Live Shrine in Akihabara. There was a rainbow, so I took a picture of it.
Aww.
Oh yeah, I'm seeing it. Yeah, this is it.
Yeah, that was actually my last full day there too. So it was a good way to end my first trip there. But yeah, I feel like, so you went for 3 weeks, so you kind of got to experience like both. I never actually have gone less than 3 weeks. But I can't imagine, like, just the jet lag and dealing with all this shit alone, I couldn't imagine being there for only a week.
Yeah, that was not ideal. The only reason it was only a week is because that's basically the longest amount of time that I could coordinate with my friend that we could both get off of work and go there. It turns out it's really difficult to coordinate with other people to take off long amounts of time from work.
Yeah. I almost went, like, I almost actually scheduled it for like a week, and the person I was meeting up there was like, no, you don't want to be here for a week. But I'm like, oh, all my vacations have always been a week. It's fine. No, you don't.
No.
Or you could just be like me and sleep during the daytime, be awake all night, and then just not experience any jet lag.
True.
It's like, all right,
I'm pretty good at that. That's happened to me a couple of times. That I'm pretty good with sleeping on the flight.
It depends. So your flight, you said it was like 20 hours.
Yeah, so I'm on the like very far end of the East Coast, so it was about like 19 hours total of like, transfers, layovers, and then, the long fucking like the actual flight from I think it was from, where was it? Was it in Texas or was it on the West Coast. It was either one of those, but like it was the actual like flight from the United States to Japan is like 15 hours alone, 15 to 16 hours.
I could not imagine. Like, I guess I'm somewhat spoiled because DFW is in like driving distance from me. That's like one of the bigger international airports in the country.
That's a big international airport. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But like I could, like if I had to be on a plane for 20 hours, I would just fucking not go anywhere.
Yeah, that was me recently. I went to Italy recently, and the flights, the actual flights weren't that bad. Like I had the longest flight I had was like an 8-hour flight from Philadelphia to Venice. And most people would be like, oh my God, that's awful. But like in contrast to the Japan flight, I was like, fuck, this is not that bad actually.
Yeah.
But the real problem, or the real hard parts, were the layovers on that one, because I got like really cheap tickets, and I think they were so cheap because I was spending like 8 hours in the airport just waiting for the next flight.
Oh God.
Do you have the Hopper app?
No, do I need that? What is that?
So anyone that wants
Today's
to travel,
sponsor.
yeah, we're not sponsored. But if you want to
Disney
sponsor us,
Plus
that's
and
fine.
Hopper.
We are apparently, when I look at our fucking podcast stats, we are classified as a similar podcast to like, was it Broad Japan or some shit? So sponsored, no. No, so I got the
Give us
Hopper
money.
app. There is a time frame that you want to shoot for when you buy tickets specific places. Japan, when I would buy tickets, was like 8 weeks ahead of time. That is the point. There's I don't know if it's still the same. That's where it was back then. There's essentially a point where like airlines start seeing like, okay, we have a bunch of like seats left on this flight. We need to kind of sell, get more butts and seats. So like they start doing like deals and stuff like that. Their prices usually come down at that point and slowly go back up to closer to the actual date, right?
Yeah.
So back in 2016, I got round trip, no layover. It was only like $800.
Oh my God.
And it was like
That's really good.
Yeah, it was like 8 weeks. It's like 8 weeks out roughly. But they will, if you have dates that you want to shoot for, you can put those in there and it'll give you alerts when they go on sale. I would highly suggest that to anybody that wants to make travel plans, and not even just to Japan. Like that's just the one I'm familiar with, but like in general, like
Yeah,
there's
I'm
usually
definitely gonna be using that.
I would recommend it because it is great. I also would buy my tickets, and then the night before, this is another tip for anybody. The night before, when you do your like check-in, they do give you options to upgrade your seats. And I would buy economy, and then I would look at economy plus, and if there were just like open rows, I would just upgrade my seat to like for like $50 or whatever to that economy plus seat, and then I would have the entire row to myself.
Huh.
Yeah, I'm
So
downloading.
you don't have to
this
deal
app.
with the hell of being next to someone on like a 15-hour flight.
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude. On my flight back, I was just this massive 8-hour flight. Obviously, I just said it wasn't that bad, but this one actually was bad because I was taking this 8-hour flight back from Venice to Philadelphia, and just the biggest man that has ever existed sat
Absolute
right next
unit.
to me. Yes, sat
Like Judge Holden.
it's not even that he was fat. He was like just huge. A huge man was crushing me against this because I got a window seat. So he was just crushing me against the wall of this plane. And I was like, am I going to be like, what'll happen if like just I feel like I'm about to be crushed out of this plane. Like what is happening here?
Forced out the window.
You book your seat and you're like, hell yeah, I got a window seat. Let's go.
Yeah. I specifically always do that just to get like footage, to get like recordings and stuff. But that was the one time where I really regretted it.
To clarify, I would not recommend buying tickets on the app. I would recommend using it to find when to buy them, because like you're gonna miss out on the fucking travel points or whatever, air miles, whatever fuck. But I mean, it's the same rates. It just will alert you. Mm-hmm. Anyone that's listening.
Thank you to Hopper for sponsoring this podcast.
Thanks for Hopper
sponsoring this podcast.
Sponsoring, even though we told people not to spend money on your app. Totally has ruined any chance of sponsorship.
Yep, there we go. All right.
We told them to download it though, so that's
we did.
Something.
There we go. And that's what matters. You download. I would assume there are ads on the app or something. So
I don't know. Probably. I don't even remember.
Probably.
I don't know how you would even monetize or like put advertisements on there. I guess like the flights themselves are advertisements.
Kinda, yeah.
Did you experience anything that was like, I guess, kind of unique or like something that you don't think people?
Yeah. So like I was saying, Numazu is like probably the most beautiful spot that I visited, and I feel like when I went to Numazu, it was like at a kind of inconvenient time where I didn't have all the time to do what I wanted to do there before I had to head back to Osaka. Mm-hmm. So what I was doing there wasn't really anything like crazy. I was kind of just wandering around, exploring and looking at various little areas that I could find on Google Maps. And when I was like looking it up, I found this like I don't know what they call it on maps, but it was like a observatory or like a lookout post or something. It was a very fancy name for basically I was like wandering into like this back street that led up a mountain to this this really, really beautiful vista that I was basically looking over the whole city of Numazu, this port. I forget what the specific port town was called, but I show it in the video. I show like this cool little panning shot of that scenery that I saw. I'll show you guys too real quick if I can find it on my phone. But that was probably the most unique, where I was like, man, I feel like I'm seeing something that not a lot of other people are going to see coming out here.
There's like an obscure overlook spot, basically.
There's like already, I feel like not many people even go to Numazu in the first place, but like that on top of it, that like cool little location was just so special.
It's basically Tokyo and then Kyoto. Those are the two places people go.
Yeah. Yep. And that was where I went too, the first time I went.
It's a shame because like if you get the chance to like go outside of Tokyo, it's such a different experience. Like Tokyo is like a city, right? Like it's like going to New York. Like people just kind of don't acknowledge you're alive.
More or less, yeah.
Everyone's kind of dead-eyed and just like beaten down by city life and taking like being shoved into a train.
Yeah.
Which granted, Tokyo is very unique in its city vistas because it is the largest city, metropolitan whatever area in the entire world.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's still a city. Japan is a very beautiful country. And it's got some very like serene and like really interesting vistas to look at.
It's like out in the countryside, the mountains and stuff.
Yeah, like people like it's because you have such a kind of unique kind of blend of like it being kind of very mountainous in some areas and being by the ocean. Like you get some really unique kind of vistas that you won't get like in the US for a lot of places. But and it's also like I remember I was taking like pictures with like people because they're like, oh, like out in the middle of fucking Kagoshima, like in the countryside. Oh, that's a beautiful picture.
Yeah. Super, super cool spot.
You see Mount Fuji and everything. Goddamn.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Sorry to the podcast listeners. You will not be able to see this image.
You will not be able to see it unless you're on YouTube.
Just picture the most beautiful image that you've seen in your life.
Imagine a bunch of happy little trees at the bottom.
Mount Fuji in the distance.
Mount Fuji in the distance. Yeah, it just, I guess because people always just go to Japan for like anime stuff, and they're just going for Tokyo, which is great.
I definitely don't blame them because that's what I did.
It's definitely a large appeal, but like being able to actually like explore out from there is definitely worth it if anybody finds themselves able to do so.
Yeah.
I was say because I forgot I was in the middle of the story of saying like I had people like wanting to take pictures with me because I was just so tall out in like the fucking countryside. And so I got like a picture of me and like an old Japanese guy like standing on like the second step, like looking so fucking happy, like he's with a fucking celebrity. I was like, it's such a different experience because like you don't really get that in Tokyo, like as far as like just random people on the street, right?
Yeah, it's like the difference between being in like New York City and then like I don't know, some like a small town in like the South or something. People are much more hospitable,
personable.
Yeah, personable. Yeah, there we go.
Well, like so because like in Tokyo, like everyone's just like used to foreigners, right? They're just like fuck off.
You're just
white people.
You're just used to people. You're just used to people in general,
I don't blame
basically, because you're in constant contact with them at all times.
Whereas, like you go, like when I was in Kagoshima, went to a restaurant, and like I remember there was a waitress, and she's like saw that we were like two foreigners, and she just had like this deer in the headlights look, like she was like immediately trying to recall every single English lesson she's ever had. Like, it's like it's such a different experience than just like going around Tokyo where nobody cares about you.
Nobody cares, you know.
I'll say this though, even in Tokyo, at least they'll at least pretend to be respectful to you.
Oh yeah.
Whereas man, my trip to Italy, like everybody there is just so mean at all times.
Yeah, I say they don't care about you, but it's not that they're like disrespectful, right? Yeah, Japan's still a very polite country in general.
Yeah.
But fuck, what was I gonna? I was leading to something.
Lost it.
It's gone forever.
You had people are nicer in the countryside. You were talking about.
You were talking about a waitress, deer in the headlights, waitress, something going on.
It's gone.
It's over.
It's over. It's so over. God fucking damn.
I'll go to Japan someday, but for now, I'm content with my experience dropping the little man on Google Maps at random spots.
Yeah,
and being like, "This looks so pretty."
Living vicariously.
I know.
Yes, it's back. We're back.
We're so back.
There is sort of an exception to what I'll say about the city not being personable, which I would recommend mainly to people listening to this podcast, since this is an anime podcast. But we went to a couple of like anime themed bars in Japan, and one in Tokyo. Actually, I don't think we went to any in Tokyo. Fuck. It was in I can't remember where there was. We went to an Evangelion themed bar and then a Macross themed bar, and that was actually some of the most fun we had. Because like people, it's a setting where it's like appropriate to like talk to people about random shit. So like, they were like asking us questions and like kind of just, feel this out like, oh, foreigners are here. And like, I wonder what anime they like. So like at one point we're in this Evangelion bar and this drunk Japanese man just was walking around like pulling figures that they had off the shelves and like, can you name who this character is? And we're like, oh yeah, that's Hitagi Sejigahara from Bakemonogatari. And you're like, oh, suge.
That sounds awesome.
Let's knowledge check this gaijin to see if he's a real one.
It was fun. Like it seems like on the outside, right? Like it would be cringe. Like, oh, I'm not gonna go to an anime theme bar. But it's really fun. Like because like you kind of have like the base level of like y'all are all into anime because you're at this anime theme bar.
Interest, yeah.
You're not gonna have that like a regular bar, right?
Right. Though I feel like if I went to like an anime themed bar here in the U.S., I might want to just shoot myself.
Oh yeah, I would not in the U.S. I did not. I don't know. I've never been there. That might be all right, but I don't know. It just seems more cringe.
It does.
Yeah, I can't judge because I went to a maid cafe while I was in Japan too.
Oh, which one did you go to?
I went to, I don't know the name. It was in Akihabara. They were doing a Idolmaster U149 kind of like crossover event. So I was like, fuck, I should probably check this out.
Yeah.
So I went there. I got I think I still have those, like, they gave me like some cards. Man, one thing about Japan, like shopping anywhere, you get bonus shit like all the time. They give you like little cards or like memorabilia or like anything whenever you make a purchase in Akihabara.
And they always ask for your points card.
Oh, do they? I wasn't asked for that.
Well, they might not. So in Tokyo, I don't think they ask foreigners because they just assume. But that is part of like their script. Like when I was in outside of Tokyo, like they always go through like, oh, how are you doing today? Do you have a points card with us? Is that all I can do for you? Like it's the same thing. Like you just go Keko desu, ie or whatever.
Gotcha.
That's another thing I guess about it. Like it's Japanese is kind of such a scripted language. Like it is kind of easy, even if you don't speak Japanese, to kind of get around and like at least function. You're not gonna thrive, but
right, yeah, you're not gonna, but you'll be able to at least like generally get around.
Yeah. Now if they ask you a curveball question, you're fucked. You're just gonna be a deer in the headlights.
Yeah. Also, like doesn't like every like at least every major sign in Tokyo, it looks like it just has English on it as well.
Yeah, they had that big initiative where they put a lot of English out for the Olympics.
Oh yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, that and like on the trains and stuff. Pretty simple to get around.
I guess getting back on the topic of anime.
Yeah, we've become an anime adjacent podcast.
We're a tourist
travel
channel.
Yeah, we're a tour travel channel. Okay, guys, so here's the travel advice you need to know if you're going to Japan.
By the way,
you're going to want to get the Hopper app.
Make sure to download the Hopper app.
Yes. That is crucial advice that no one will ever give you on a travel channel. You mentioned you were talking about a bit about Haruhi in your latest video. How did you? I guess how did you like Haruhi? Or I guess I should. A better question, I guess, is how did you watch Haruhi?
Well, I watched it in, I feel like the way that you're supposed to, where I watched the kind of like, however the 2009 version kind of like ordered the episodes. Like I remember it's really, I still don't know the full story about like how everything went down with Haruhi, but I watched the 2009 series and I know I could clearly tell when I was watching the original episodes from 2006 and then when the new like season 2 stuff like Endless 8, all that stuff came in. And then I think at the very end they bring back like 2006 episodes. So I guess that would be like chronological order.
Yeah.
So that's how I watched it.
It is a debate, a very hotly contested subject of how you should watch Haruhi.
Well, the interesting thing about that is that whole thing has actually led to like an advancement in mathematics where someone on 4chan like did something that actually contributed to like
I
finding
remember
out
that. Yeah,
like the upper limit of like a super permutation or something. I think that's actually just been specifically cited in some mathematical papers, which is hilarious to me. This is also why I will never watch Haruhi because I'm like I don't know what to do. Apart from I guess I could just watch the way it initially aired with the jumbled up order, and then watch it again in chronological order, and then do season 2.
Well, yeah. The debate. I mean, the debate really is just you should watch your broadcast order because that was quote unquote how it was intended.
I did watch like the first episode of that broadcast order, which is like the movie one. And I was like, what the fuck? Haruhi isn't even in this. I feel lied to. No, that first episode's great.
It was,
and then I did not watch it.
It's a weird introduction. So
I think it works really well.
So the if
it's
you
like I immediately get like, oh, okay, I know exactly what kind of person Haruhi is based on this like shitty movie, and she's not even fucking in it.
It does work. It's just a weird tone to set.
It would probably like people want like a more normal experience.
For those that haven't watched the broadcast order, the episode where they screen their movie that they made, and it's just the Mikuru beam thing. That is the first episode of the broadcast.
Yeah, I did not watch it that way. I watched literally the first episode for me was called like literally The Melancholy of Haruhi Part 1.
Oh yeah, which is like the second episode in the broadcast order, I think.
Well, the chronological order is one, how it was broadcast for season 2.
Yeah.
And 2, how it is in the light novels.
Yeah, right, I'm seeing it here on Wikipedia. The 2009 re-airing is when they like actually aired it as intended, like
in chronological
order. Yeah,
I've heard
and I think that's I think that's probably the way you should watch it. If I had to, like, from what I watched, like that felt right to me.
I've heard there's like it's like an issue of like, so people who like will watch it in chronological and broadcast say like chronological has like weird like pacing issues and stuff or something, but I have no idea.
I don't agree. I see where they're coming from, because the way the broadcast airs, the most exciting quote unquote episodes are put as like the climax of the season. But I don't like, I'm into like the character development, and so the climax, the exciting quote unquote episodes are not really like the climax for me watching it in like the chronological order.
And also it's just cool getting that that episode that I believe you're talking about, because I was told that as well when I watched that episode. I was like, oh my god, it just felt like I watched a finale, and then people told me that was the finale. I was like, oh. But I feel like it kind of works better getting that episode earlier on for what it does in terms of the characterization and like how it makes you look at the characters in the episodes afterwards.
Yeah, it ties into the themes of the show better too, because it's all about like front loading like the excitement, right? Like, oh, there's aliens and sidekicks and all this shit, and then as like that kind of falls to the wayside because they're just enjoying like the actual company of the people instead of having to be like tied to these like identities or like this exciting thing. Like it becomes kind of less exciting to where like the last episode is literally just like them being asleep in the club room on before Christmas kind of thing.
Yeah.
I can see especially like that's like the last one for the broadcast version.
For the chronological
yeah, I could see because I could see because like the first season was 2006, and they redid it for 2009. So I could definitely see like, especially like if you don't even know you're going to get like a second season and you want to make it like an exciting broadcast, then you would. It makes sense to jumble up the order, even though no fucking anime I think has ever done that other than Haruhi, really.
Bakano.
I think Bakano kind of does that.
Oh yeah, it does.
Bakano,
but it does it very well.
Humanity Has Declined from 2012 does that.
Really?
The light novels were not that way, but they aired it that way.
Huh.
Bakano had original content too, though. It wasn't just like adaptation stuff.
Right.
Okay. Bring back schizo adaptations, god damn it.
Bring back the
Stop being faithful to the source material.
Yeah.
I can see what people talking about, but it seems like a very like superficial reason why they want like that order. It's like, oh well,
the broadcast order or
the broadcast, the original broadcast. I do appreciate like the idea, because like someone explained to me where it's like the broadcast order is like the Haruhi viewing. Like it's the way that Haruhi would probably like order the episodes, which is
that's funny.
That kind of works.
And then Kyon is like the chronological, where it's like, no, this is just the events as they happen.
Yeah, basically.
Stop fucking everything up.
I feel like I missed, because I watched the broadcast order for my initial time, but I also watched that like in 2012. So it's hard to like parse through how much of it is like the actual experience of watching it and how much of it was just like my inexperience with the medium and kind of just being more judgmental. But I really didn't enjoy watching it in the broadcast order. Whereas when I watched it in the chronological order, like there's so much I picked up on that I feel like it's harder to pick up on watching it out of order. Because
that's interesting because we were like talking earlier about like how you like being able to really like read more into stuff. So I feel like almost like the jumbled up nature of the broadcast order would almost make it more of a puzzle for you.
Yeah, it does, but not in like it's like a I don't want to say forced, artificial. Yeah.
Okay. I see. As opposed to something like Monogatari, which is like achronological for very specific reasons.
Right. Because like there are things that are set up where like you don't necessarily get when you're watching it out of order. So like at the just as an example for the beginning, she's like, "Oh, I want to meet aliens." Time travelers and espers or something, or like the way she says it in a very specific order, and that very specific order is in how they introduce the characters. They introduce them in the exact order that they're listed. So like the aliens first, so like Nagato is introduced, and then the time traveler second, so Mikuru is introduced. And it makes even more sense in like a light novel sense, because like since he's basically writing the novel as it's kind of going, because he's the narrator. It plays into kind of what we talked about. Like I think we talked about with Jane a little bit, where it's like I feel like I like the idea. It's like a weird crack theory, but I like the idea of like Kyon being the actual like source of the events rather than Haruhi. Like almost like
you should make a video about that.
Yeah, someone could make a video.
Someone could definitely make a video about that.
Someone might have made a video, maybe in this podcast,
a couple years ago.
It might have been their first video. It might not be so great, but it was. I really like that theory. Like it felt like it added a lot for me on my second watch. Like as far as like appreciating it. Specifically because it adds like those layers. Because like it does support the dual interpretation of like it could be either, right? So it's not like a one specific answer.
So I have a question for you. You obviously seem like a big Haruhi fan. So
not really.
So my question is, when I was watching it, I watched the entire series, and then I got to that movie, which is obviously that's the one that everybody is like, oh, this is why you watch it. And I watched that movie.
Disappearance, yeah.
And I did really, really like the movie, but I think I liked the series about the same amount. Like I liked the series and I liked the movie about equally. Yeah. I'm wondering how you feel about that.
I feel the same. Yeah. I mean, I like Disappearance maybe marginally more just because of the nature of it being a film and like kind of higher quality, and as like a standalone experience, it might be marginally better, but it's like, it's so fucking close. Like there's really not a distinguishable difference for me.
That's the big thing, is that they feel so connected already, where it's like, I don't know why people are even like distinguishing them in the first place, where it's like, the series isn't that great, but the movie, it's not. That's how I feel about like Review Starlight, but like I don't make that connection here with Haruhi.
I feel like a similar thing with like Evangelion and the end of Evangelion almost, where it's like, in my mind, they're kind of like inseparable in a lot of ways, where it's like you can't have one without the other.
I would say even End of Eva is like a more understandable distinction, just because of like this how big of a step up it is. Whereas like Disappearance, I feel like it's such a continuation that
and KyoAni TV shows already look like movies.
Yeah, because like the nature of like End of Eva is like it's retelling the ending, in quote unquote, in a sense, right? Because like you already got an ending that was like a conclusion in the TV series, whereas like Haruhi, the TV series ends. The ending is like kind of a non-ending. It's just like, oh, life goes on.
Life goes on,
and it literally is leading into Disappearance. Like there's not any kind of like hard cut.
Yeah. Which is why they did like the Endless Eight, wasn't it? It's because they wanted to make Disappearance a movie, and the only way that could work is to then.
Well, they had the whole series, like, a whole season already blocked off, and then they're like, "Fuck, we're gonna make this a movie."
Yeah. So
I had no idea
this episode
that was the story.
That's part of it. Yeah.
I thought that was just like some avant-garde thing that they chose to do with
I mean, it sounds.
Endless
I
Eight.
mean, it sounds awesome, and part of the reason I want to watch Haruhi is just because the Endless Eight sounds so fucking. Like again, it's like that Schadenfreude thing where it's like I'm enjoying this, and then the fact that it pisses other people off makes me enjoy it more.
I actually liked Endless Eight all right.
I like half of Endless Eight. There's like 4 episodes in it, including the introductory episode and the concluding episode. There's 2 other episodes in Endless Eight where I think they did the repeating thing in a compelling way, because it really does come down to like how much can the director like pop off, like how can they convey this thing that you've already seen in a way that is compelling another time.
Yeah.
And I think that they did that well 2 times. And then there's definitely a lot of episodes that are definitely like, okay, I got it.
Yeah.
It definitely didn't make me angry though. I know people get like furious about it, but
I think
Also,
from
in
what I
my mind,
remember,
it's such a ballsy decision too to do that, where it's like,
yeah,
it's never going to happen again.
I feel like from what I remember, there was something. Part of the like outrage was like there wasn't really a strong indicator. I don't remember exactly what it was, because like it's different now, because it might have been like the episode titles, like something in the OP or something that wasn't there in the broadcast, and so there was like no way of knowing how long this was gonna last.
You didn't know it was the Endless 8. It could have been like the Endless 9, 10, however long.
Yeah, so like it's like 8 weeks. Like you keep tuning in, and like week 2, you're like, well, that's weird. They like repeated it for some reason, because that's not in the light novels, right?
Right.
Like they don't do anything. Like it's a very short compared to like the actual arc of the TV series. And then like, you keep coming back, and you're like, what the fuck? It's been 5 weeks. Why are you doing this again?
I would love to have been there for that airing, like just there each week, seeing that happen.
Oh yeah, and then like talking to people about it online, like on like 2chan and stuff at the time, and people are just like, "What the fuck is happening?"
I feel like if that were done now, you would have like quite a few people that were like,
"Oh, you'd get hate."
You would get hate, but you would have a lot more defenders, right? You'd have like,
you just didn't get it. You didn't get it.
I almost want to say like they'd be like Naoka Yamada stance or something.
Yeah.
Like that kind of level of like support for it. Whereas back then, I feel like it felt like such a different time, and I feel like it's just people were just more emotionally driven.
I mean, has any TV series even done anything remotely close to that in terms of like making doing something in such a way that it basically just like piss off so many people?
I mean, the Hall of Anal Devastation shows that people will burn their merch for something differently entirely.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about in terms of like
the presentation,
adapting in something in such a way. Like, I guess maybe like the closest I can in theory think of is like the stylistic changes between the Chainsaw Man manga and the anime. But even then, to me, that's a
different situation.
Yeah.
Entirely.
I don't know. Yeah,
I can't think of anything. Like that's definitely like kind of one of a kind.
Speaking of hate and outrage, you didn't like Sonny Boy?
Oh yeah.
This is the whole reason we invited you on, to call you out.
Yeah, it's, I don't know, just something about Sonny Boy, man. I really wanted to like it.
It was the monkey baseball, wasn't it?
It was not the monkey baseball. It was, that episode actually isn't that bad. It was just like, as I continued through the series, and like, I just want to preface this with like an immense amount of context, where I have a video like years ago, like where I was, it's like some seasonal, like top 5 season anime you should be watching. Sonny Boy is #1 in that video. I just want to say that.
Yeah.
And for years, I kind of just never got around to it because I knew that like I would be a big fan. And whenever I have series like that, same with like Sengatsu no Lion, I kind of like struggle to get around to it because there is like some expectation there where I'm like, I know I'm going to love this. I need to wait for the right time.
Or it's like, I want to be in the right state of mind.
Right state of mind, right time to like watch this thing that I know I'm going to love. But the thing with Sonny Boy is just like I do respect it on a lot of levels. Like I do respect having this series that is clearly being made for, I don't want to say it's not being made for an audience, but I want to say it's being made with a creator touch more than you usually see. Like it's being made without a filter. Like it's not being filtered for an audience.
It is willing to alienate people.
Yeah, it's willing to alienate. That's a good way to put it. Willing to alienate people. And I respect that, but I also do feel like I'm one of the people who got alienated. And it's like, it's just because as I go through this series, I'm really struggling to grasp what entirely the series is trying to tell me. Like I do get it on an overarching level, like what the coming of age, growing up, I get that. But like there's just some episodes in here where like you would watch them and you'd watch this storyline. The one that immediately comes to my mind is there's this one episode with these twins. They're like trying to get these twins to like make up or something. Oh, yeah. And that was the one bit that was the first episode where I watched it, I finished it, and I was just like, what was the point of that? Like, what was I watching there? And there's a lot of things like that in Sonny Boy, and they do it even for like these big moments. Like, I'm not going to spoil anything, but there is a like quote unquote death later in the series. And it was something that I was kind of expecting. I kept like wondering how they were going to execute it. And the execution is just like so bizarre and it just like
happens
weird. Yeah, it just happens. And you're like trying to figure out like, did that happen? What is happening here?
Yeah.
What was the point of that?
Well, because like up until that point too, you're like, well, I mean, like there are quote unquote rules to how these worlds work, but also it seems like we're playing Calvin balls. I don't know if a character dying means they're dead.
Exactly. Like I don't know what the stakes are. I don't know what the weight is of some things that are happening. I definitely did like the conclusion though. I did like those like last two episodes where they kind of like they finally do bring it together and like kind of more explicitly tell you what the series is trying to say. So I did like that.
Because like for me, I watched it as it aired. And while watching it as it was coming out episode to episode, it's kind of like, all right, this is interesting, but what is it doing? Where is it going? Is this going to tie itself together by the end? And when I got to that last episode, I was kind of like, oh, that's when it like really just like clicked for me and like everything in retrospect. Cause I've rewatched like bits and pieces of it since, and everything to me just kind of like, it like all falls into place almost.
Okay.
With kind of like that last episode in mind. Cause you watch an episode like Monkey Baseball, or like even just the fact that like for so much of the show, like that whole first episode, there's no music. The ending comes in like right at the end. And it's playing over like that last episode, but I like it too. But then like thinking about that and the fact that there is no music, then you get to that last episode where there's like so much music. It's like, oh, there's like a sort of arc there to it. And it like kind of stuff like that clicks to me more. There's also just like the reoccurring like symbolism and stuff as well is interesting.
Yeah, it's like it's an interesting deal because like I remember watching it, like the Monkey Baseball episode, watching it in the moment, I didn't like it.
Is very strange.
Yeah, I was just like, what the fuck is this? This is fucking kind of stupid.
Oh, there's these monkeys that are invisible, but they seem to have a society, and they've been playing baseball for like hundreds of years, even though one of the characters that we know, Cap, introduced baseball to them seemingly not that long ago. And they're playing baseball in the episode. Like the main characters are playing baseball in the episode because like Nozomi and Mizuho really want to see the monkeys, but you can only see the monkeys if you have this special flashlight that one of the other characters have, and you shine the flashlight on them, and then you can see the monkeys. But he's only going to give over that flashlight if they can beat him at baseball.
It's very, very Sonny Boy.
Very.
But I feel like
what?
I feel like in retrospect, I'm able to really appreciate that episode Because like once you have like the full kind of picture of what they were doing with it, you can re-examine the episode. You're like, oh, this was actually really about like reconciling power structures and like how their fairness or unfairness to those who would succeed or are being kept down by those who are less capable than them.
Yeah,
And
or
kinda
like the
coming
idea
to-
that like the rules that have like defined the world up until that point are not immutable. They can
Yeah.
change if everyone wants them to.
Yeah, they're coming to terms with like that structure to like maintain the
Yeah.
cohesion, and it's like generally prepping the audience. Like, you know, there are these things literally. It doesn't matter if these things are true or like literally true or not true. There's like meaning behind them, right?
Yeah.
So it's like whether or not there were actually monkeys that existed that were playing baseball. It's like ultimately it's irrelevant. It's that their impact was there and it was true, right? So I feel like I'd be interested if like, do you think that if you went back and like watched it, having seen the ending and kind of having that context, do you think it would like change your opinion of like the earlier episodes?
It might, but the thing is that like it wasn't even the early episodes that I had a problem
Just
with.
kind of
Like,
all of them.
I was well, no, I was into the series. I want to say for a good, I want to say it took until like episode, let me think. It was like episode 5 where I like up till that point, I was like, you know, I was still in the, oh, I'm going to love this perspective. And then it was around like episode 5 or 6. 6, I remember actually being a really, really great episode.
That's
but there was
the dog one, isn't it?
No, the dog one is like episode 8 or 9 or something.
Okay.
6 is the one where they're like trying to get something into space and like they get that vision and they're like, oh, we can't leave or something.
Oh yeah,
like
yeah,
up to that point,
one,
up to that point, they've been trying to escape, and that was the episode where they realized like, oh, we're not.
There
escaping.
is no escape. Yeah.
That was a really good episode, but it was also like it was around that point where I was realizing like, oh, this is cool, but I'm also not, I feel like I'm not understanding, or the series isn't conveying it in the best way where I'm like getting thematically everything that I should be feeling. And then that kind of just kept exacerbating, especially in the second half where you get like, I know there's like that episode where they're in the mines or whatever. Like there's like a lot of weird, cool ideas, but they just often never really like culminated in anything that I thought really impacted me.
Because it's like that episode is like the idea is like, oh, Nagara got a job basically, and now he's working in the mines to build
like I
the
got
Tower
it
of Babel.
On a conceptual level, I got it. It was just like it felt like we were kind of stagnating on these really simple ideas that it felt like they were trying to say more than the subject material really elicited out of me, I guess is how I would put it.
Yeah. Especially when there's things like in that episode, it's like, oh, the reveal is the tower is upside down. And it's like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Exactly. That was literally, let's literally like, okay. Like that's my reaction to a lot of those like endings of those episodes where it kind of felt like I wasn't getting everything out of it that I wanted to.
That's fair. Yeah.
But I definitely think I do think that if I were to rewatch it, my opinion would change where I kind of like would be paying attention to certain aspects more than I did on first watch.
I feel like I definitely think about the production a lot more too when I rewatch episodes because it's such a gorgeous looking show.
Oh yeah.
So like, and just like, because like when you first watch something, you know, you're especially something like Sonny Boy where it's esoteric as shit, and you're like just mostly trying to like follow at what's actually happening and piece things together. And so then like rewatching it, and this goes for like basically anything I watch, where it's like now that I'm rewatching it, I don't necessarily have to devote as much of my like brain power, as much of my attention to like figuring out what's going on because I already know what's going on. So I can then think about like, oh, this has some like really interesting direction or shot choices or like editing and things like that.
I guess it has something to do with like how you enjoy shows too. Because I've noticed like I enjoy shows kind of in their totality in the sense of like I kind of get enjoyment like moment to moment initially, but I feel like the peak of my enjoyment or appreciation comes when I've seen it and I'm looking at everything in retrospect, right?
Right, yeah. I think Sonny Boy works more in that sense than it does as like a moment to moment, really just feel good experience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's something I get more like on rewatches, like when I rewatched like Evangelion, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is super well constructed episode to episode. I really love this.
Oh yeah, it's insane.
But like when I'm watching something for the first time, I generally am like more focused on like trying to piece together the big picture. I guess it just depends on the show, really, but
yeah,
I guess that's just generally my taste.
Yeah, because like for me, Sonny Boy is like a good show. It's lived in my head rent free for like shit. It's been 3 years now. Sonny Boy is a 3-year-old show. Feel old yet?
Oh my god!
It's lived in my head like rent free. It seems like it's lived in a lot of people's heads rent free because I still see people talking about Sonny Boy. It's one of those things that have kind of.
It's definitely something you don't forget. Like it sticks around in your head.
Yeah. It's a special. I would compare it almost to like a Lane or like a Paranoia Agent, where it's this original anime. It's very strange, and there's just sort of this ever-present conversation about it in terms of like what the hell does it mean, basically. Even if it's not necessarily the most popular show, it's a show that I think there's enough time that's passed now. I think people will just kind of be talking about it continually in some way or another. Because it is just one of those shows that they're interesting to have a conversation about. Like I feel like that Shumatsu train is almost kind of similar in what that show that's airing this season.
I definitely got that vibe.
Yeah.
That was one of those fun experiences where you're like piecing everything together as it's kind of coming.
Oh yeah, especially since it's airing right now. Oh yeah, that's the joy of original anime, you know. Because you don't know what's gonna happen next.
You don't have people welcoming you to the real train girls.
Well, it's like even with like Akiba Maid War, when we watched that, and we're like, I don't know what's gonna happen the next episode, where the fuck this story's going. It's just a wild ride, and I'm here for it.
Shit was unhinged.
We definitely need more originals. I'll say that.
Yeah.
This season's been pretty good.
Yeah, there's quite a few good original anime airing this season. Between they're all
2 of them are band shows.
2 of them are band shows because it's like Shumatsu Train, Girls Band Cry, which is awesome, and then
Jellyfish Kiss for the Night.
Yeah.
Oh, Jellyfish isn't based on anything?
Nope.
No,
it's original.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's really cool.
Dogakobo original.
It's pretty good. There's a lot of good stuff airing this season.
Yeah, this is a banger season. Like, I was actually surprised by how many good shows were this season.
Yeah, are you watching anything this season, Phenom?
Yeah, so I'm watching. There were a bunch of things I wanted to check out, but the big things I'm watching right now are Dungeon Meshi. I'm watching Girls Band Cry, obviously. And I'm watching Mushoku Tensei. Those are the big ones where I'm like trying to keep up with them each week. But then, like other stuff like Jellyfish, Konosuba, I really want to get to.
Oh, yeah.
Sound Euphonium, I would be watching weekly right now if I was finished with my rewatch, but I still need to rewatch the 2 movies. So
I still need to rewatch that
on the docket. But
still need to rewatch that second movie and then get started with season 3. So.
Yeah.
The second movie being like it's like a 1 hour like special, not the Liz and the other
ensemble
second movie
contest.
Yeah, the ensemble. Yeah,
but really good season.
Yeah, many girls in band shows of varying degrees of Yuri between Girls Band Cry. There's not really.
I'm not really getting any Yuri vibes from Girls Band Cry. If I'm being
not really
honest.
Jelly, Hibike. And then there's just Whisper Me a Love Song, which is just Yuri.
Yeah, I hear really good things about that one
straight
too.
Up. I really like it. It's very cute. There's a lot of like nice stuff airing this season. There's also that we were just watching it today. A Condition Called Love.
Yeah, you were talking about that.
Cute. Yeah.
The most contentious episode of anime this season.
Most contentious episode of anime this. Watching how many shows this season? Like 14.
Guy got knocked out by a soccer ball.
Oh, the soccer ball.
Yeah, the soccer ball thing.
Is that making it into the final cut?
Probably
I don't
not.
know. Probably in some capacity. The way these work is like, the whole preliminary conversation is basically just like there so I can have like a cool, like in media res, like fade in for how the podcast starts.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Also helps to like just get warmed up.
Or if you want to listen to the whole thing, check us out on Patreon.
Oh yeah, the Uncut is on Patreon.
Uncut is on
That is-
Patreon.
That is a good easy plug.
Easy plug.
Uh,
Do we have anything else we want to talk about?
We've been going for a while, but I guess we
have
could
come
end it
full
off
circle.
on a positive note. If you want to, you did watch Oshimajo Doremi last year.
Yeah. Oh my God. Maybe we should have a part two of the podcast where we can
Part two,
only
we just
talk about that.
only about Doremi.
Yeah.
You think you could talk about Doremi for an entire podcast?
I really do. But I see some of your other topics here, and I think I could definitely talk a while about all of these too.
See, the problem with the Doremi one is I haven't seen Doremi yet, so it's gonna be like, there's a barrier there. I so badly want to watch it, but it's
Have you seen it, Mumi?
Oh yeah,
200
I
episodes.
fucking love the show.
Cool.
We did watch that Junkers Come Here, which is a Junichi Sato movie. It was so fucking good at like handling like issues that a kid would realistically face in such a grounded way that it's like, shit, now I really want to watch like Doremi, since that movie was so good at like handling its subject matter.
That definitely sounds very reminiscent, but I wouldn't even consider Doremi a like Junichi Sato series if I have, because I know he directed season 1.
Yeah.
I know he has like a role in the entire series. I know he directed Naisho too, but like I consider Doremi more of a Igarashi series. Igarashi, and also who's the writer? There's like one main writer who's like really responsible.
Takashi Yamada?
Is it? I believe you if it is.
Reiko Yoshida also has some credits on at least this first season. There's a lot of writing credits here.
That's not fair to Junichi Sato. I do consider it also a Sato series, but it's more, I feel like Igarashi, like when you see his episodes specifically on the series, and then you see like how he took over on the future seasons, like it definitely felt to me like he understood the series the most as far as both the comedic and the dramatic qualities that it has.
Kind of like a similar thing with like Sailor Moon, with like Yukihara taking over after like the first season.
Yeah.
It definitely does hit its peaks with like the later episodes.
Yeah. I'd always heard before I even got into the series, like, oh, season 2 is when it gets good. And I remember when I started watching it, and like I was already like immediately in season 1, I was already really enjoying it. I was like, this is the bad part of the series. Like, what's going on here? But it definitely, I understand what they mean now, because definitely when you get to those later seasons, my God, just genuinely some of the greatest episodes of anime ever made.
Yeah.
It's a very good looking show too, from what I've seen.
Oh yeah.
And it almost, it kind of sucks that people have like this kind of like stigma, because like you look at like the poster for it and you're like, oh, this is like a nonsense kids show.
It doesn't it doesn't show you the full picture. Like it's very greatest, in my opinion, greatest character designs ever created by Yoshihiko Umakoshi. Just they are so, you will immediately get the picture when you watch like just the first episode or the first couple episodes. Like the way these designs transform is just like unlike anything, even like stuff like like Gainax and Trigger make. Like it's crazy what they were doing on that series.
All of the faces.
Yeah. Like you could make a like encyclopedia of the faces in Doremi.
Well, it's almost like a very timeless like design. I feel like season 1 got aged a tiny bit in the context of the franchise, because it did get more like the designs got more streamlined with season like 2, 3, and 4. Where like when you go and compare like season 1 to season,
it's mainly season 1 and 2 have like kind of similar design philosophies, but then once you hit season 3, they kind of like they modernized it in a way that looks different. I like them both though. I think they both look really good.
Yeah, it made it age super fucking well.
Yeah.
And it also really lended to the like just general like animation and freneticism to it.
Well, it's not even just the animation; it's the like animation wise. The series is actually like it's very good, but it's also very economic, where it can survive over these huge 50 episode seasons.
Mhm.
But it's really this what makes the series look as good as it does. In my opinion, it's the greatest a long running series has ever looked. It's this team of directors they had at Toei at that time, where it was just like an all-star, like just some of the best directors in the industry all collaborating on this one series. And they eventually, like you see, they go off to do their own things, but that was like a rare time where you just had all this talent at Toei coalescing in this one place. And it's also why I think Toei is kind of underrated as far as like the way it creates or births all this directorial talent. Like that's how I was talking about Megumi Ishitani right now. I feel like she's in a very similar position as far as like we're seeing one of the greatest directors in the industry right now before they're actually going off to do like these projects that people know them for.
Yeah, it's pretty stacked. As a show. And like episode to episode is like I said earlier, I don't really consume things like I like consuming them into totality. I feel like Doremi, even when I watched it the first time, really stood out in like how consistently engaging each episode was. Like episode to episode.
It does something I've been becoming a big fan of, something that Idolmaster 2011 did that made that in my favorites as well, where it like has this really strong like I don't know what the word is, like a very strong push. Like it has an idea of what this overarching story is and where it wants to eventually go and the things that it wants to say, but it also isn't neglecting how the series should be on a minute level either. Like each episode is its own very compelling thing as well. And like I love series that are able to be both, where they can have really good episodes that stand alone, but they're also all culminating together to build an overall picture as well.
What do you think about Doremi as a response to Sailor Moon?
That's hard. I've heard that before, and it's one that I have a very shaming confession to make, but I have not seen Sailor Moon yet, and it's it's top priority, something I really want to watch soon. But I have heard that about Doremi and Sailor Moon and how it kind of like Sailor Moon is the reason why Doremi was made.
Yeah, because like Sailor Moon is this big like action. It's like it's the like start of this trend of like magical girls as action heroes.
Yeah,
I mean it is
like
directly in the lineage of like Precure, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's stuff like Cutie Honey before, but like Sailor Moon is like the big like landmark.
I meant
when
Doremi.
that really. Oh, Doremi. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Doremi is also like it definitely is a precursor to Precure, but it was actually interesting watching Doremi after Heartcatch Precure, because that was my first Precure series. And then I went off to watch other ones. Like I remember I was trying to follow like Delicious Party Precure, Hirogaru Sky Precure. I was checking out some other ones too. Like I checked out Hugto. I liked what I watched of Hugto. But I was getting kind of like dwindling returns on Precure because it very much feels like it's stagnating in like one specific thing that it's doing. And honestly, I don't even think it's doing it that well anymore, to be honest. I don't know if that's a hot take here. I don't know if you guys watch Precure, but
I watch a few of them. I'm not like the biggest fan.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is that it was watching. The reason why I even got into Precure is because of Heartcatch Precure, which is very, very, very good. And the reason why I ended up watching Doremi is because I knew that it was it's not, people like to act like it's that entire team. It's not really the same team, but it is a lot of those core voices still from Doremi working on Heart Catch Precure, which is why those two things are both very good. And also because Heart Catch, it kind of subverts the Precure formula in a lot of ways that is kind of weird to go back to stagnating in afterwards. Like, it's weird to have a team that can do something interesting with Precure and then just stop doing that once they leave.
I always kind of like joke. I'm not really being serious, but I always joke about like Heart Catch kind of being Doremi light, essentially.
That's honestly a good way to put it, because I definitely don't think Heart Catch is like anywhere close to Doremi, but it's very much like a flavor of what to expect.
I think if Doremi were just the first 50 episodes, they'd be pretty close. But
I agree. I do agree with that. When I finished season 1 of Doremi, I was like, Heart Catch is maybe a little bit better than that. But then, once you hit season 2 and beyond, it's nowhere near.
It's definitely the scale of Doremi and like where it kind of goes that sets it apart.
That's why I kind of wish. Yeah, I agree, and that's why I kind of wish they could do that with Precure, where it's like we're not resetting every single time.
They've had sequels. Have you seen?
It was a recent thing.
Yeah, there was a recent one that was like a sequel.
Yeah, the adult version.
Yeah, that was an interesting.
I heard that was
one.
Really, interesting is one word. I didn't hear.
There was also an
great
adult
things about
version of
it.
Doremi as well recently.
Well, that's just like a preview. They've actually had like a light novel.
Yeah,
sequel?
so that's based on like a light novel series that was written a while ago, and like basically they're saying we're probably going to do an anime of this, but we're kind of just testing the waters or whatever.
Yeah. It's interesting that they did like the movie Finding Witch Apprentices in the way they did before they did like just a straight up sequel.
Yeah, well, that's what I like about that movie, is that like it very much feels like the producer Hiromi Seki, because she's the reason why that even got made, is because it feels like she understands what that series meant to people. Like, she was to set the context here. I don't know if you know this, Levi, but the movie is about people, like actual like adult women in real life who grew up with Doremi in their childhoods, and the movie is about them kind of like connecting and like overcoming the struggles in their life. So it's not even really, the movie isn't really about Doremi. It's about just these women and kind of the connection they share through the series. But I thought that was I mean, I don't love the movie personally, but I thought that was a really kind of like ambitious and compelling theme to have for like an anniversary reminiscence of the series.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea.
I actually really loved the movie. I didn't like it as much as like the TV series, obviously.
Yeah, no.
But like as somebody that like talks about anime on the internet to an unhealthy degree, it definitely like resonates as far as like, you know, finding connections and like kind of using this medium to like navigate your real life, especially like in the context of the film where they're like literally adults, right? And they're able to like now make different connections than they were children with this piece of media. So it definitely resonates in that regard. I just think
that's why I'm really excited for that. If hopefully they end up doing that like time skip series for the original characters as well, because I do think the scope of the stories that you can tell keeps expanding the older you get. I definitely, based on what I've heard, I'm definitely not expecting those, because I've heard the light novels aren't like on that level of the original series, but I'm still really looking forward to seeing it.
It'd be like a Tatami Time Machine Blues thing where it's just like, I'm just glad to be back.
Yeah, just glad to be back. Exactly.
You get to see what happened with all these characters I love.
Yeah.
I guess one thing I really appreciate about Doremi, as like in like the context of like Magical Girl shows, is like how as the show progresses, they eventually like very slowly move away from the magic.
Yeah, that's one of the coolest aspects about it is that like in the beginning they're kind of like using magic for everything and they're doing it very badly too.
Very frivolous,
to like
yeah.
frivolous and like usually fucking things up more than they're solving things with magic. And then as the series progresses, you really start seeing problems that end up getting resolved like not through magic, like we're just talking and figuring things out. I love that.
It speaks to the core of like magical girl shows, right? Because they very much started off as like being very community and like personal, interpersonal kind of conflict focused, where it's just like solving just everyday problems. And in Doremi, they're using the magic similar to like those to like a Hime-chan's ribbon or like a Minky Momo kind of thing, where they're just using the magic to facilitate the problem solving.
Yeah, exactly.
And in Doremi, it's done very, very entertainingly because it's never like, most shows is just like very pragmatic. Like, oh, I'm going to use magic to make myself a veterinarian so I can help cure this horse for the horse race or whatever the fuck.
Whereas, I was just watching. Here's a great example of what you're saying. Like I was just watching an episode earlier where, like they're trying to protect these plants. Like this girl in their class is trying to like grow these plants outside their school, and it starts storming and raining, and they're trying to like protect these plants that are like at risk of like getting blown away or fucked up or whatever. And instead of like in any other in modern Precure, what the solution would be, assuming they were using magic and stuff, the solution would be cast magic and make the clouds go away. That's how we solve this problem. But no, in Doremi, the solution that they come up with is let's use magic and create a ton of little tiny umbrellas that go over each little individual plant. And it's like, it's just a ton of like whimsical little stuff like that. That
makes
keeps
sense if it's coming from
time.
the mind of a child.
Yeah.
Also, I'm pretty sure in Precure, it would be like, the bad guy made a rainstorm.
Yeah, the bad guy did
and they have to like punch the
bad guy and punch the rain cloud with angry eyes on it.
Yeah, they have to punch it away.
That's actually what I was mentioning before with watching Doremi after Heart Catch, is that like I was just like really kind of refreshed with because I was kind of expecting it to be Precure like in a lot of ways. Like I don't know exactly what I was expecting, but like I guess I was expecting like some kind of bad guy episode of the villain of the week kind of stuff, and like Doremi doesn't have any of that. And like I like
they kind of have Oya GD.
No, but that's not the same. Like he does it. That's in Precure. He would be there like every single episode, like fucking things up and stuff. And like, he's not even in a lot of those episodes. Like there are like a little like comical villain stuff, but like, I like how Doremi is more about like just life and just kind of like figuring things out and solving. It's more about like classmate of the week or like person of the week. It's not villain of the week.
And it's not even like, it's like a Heart Catch. Like they literally just see the one classmate once and like, that's it. Which to be fair, it's 50 episodes, whatever. Where in Doremi, like they'll help a classmate.
They stick around.
They might be like a key person in helping another classmate later on.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they'll even come back and do like a follow-up on like on the later season. Like they might come back and be like, oh, the girl that you wanted to ask out that you asked out that we helped you with,
exactly,
she's now like upset with you for some reason. They like help him again.
Yeah,
like it very much builds the community. It's a kind of unique.
And honestly,
experience.
I feel like Heart Catch never, even within like a 50 episode framework, I never really felt like it fully capitalized on the supporting characters as well.
Definitely not on that level. Like I feel like Doremi is very unique in that regard.
Yeah.
There are shows that have large casts, but they don't really like flesh out a community in the same way, I don't think.
That's one of the things, like it feels very persistent and it feels very like organic. Like it feels, there was like an interview that like just came out with the producer, and she was saying that before the series even started, one thing that they did was they like plotted out the full like class seat arrangement. Like they plotted out each character, where each character sits in the classroom. and they kind of came up with the personalities for each one of them before they even started writing the script. And I think that's kind of like indicative when you like watch the series. Like the thing about the series is it just really does feel very authentic as far as, oh, this is like an actual classroom. This is a, you know, an actual school, an actual neighborhood, an actual city. Like it really does feel very organic.
And I think like the whole like magic thing and like moving away from the magic, it makes it an interesting response to Sailor Moon, because it's almost like a return to form for the genre in a way. Obviously, like the genre did not continue to that in that direction.
Yeah. No.
But like, you know, Sailor Moon, there's never really like Magical Girls starting off very much were in line with like the feminist movement in Japan. And I know like with Miki Momo, they specifically talk about wanting to depict women in like all these different professions and kind of show girls like you can be anything in that way, right?
Yeah, and they tried to do that. There are some Precure where they still try to do that, but I feel like they don't convey it very well.
It's kind of a similar problem with like Sailor Moon when like they incorporate these like tokusatsu elements. It becomes kind of a problem because now you have this kind of underlying like good versus evil kind of thing going on, which a lot of people get. I get pushback for saying that. I'm not saying specifically like all the people in Sailor Moon are just like evil, like mustache twirler or whatever, but you kind of have like that conflict of like morality more so than like a, you know, Hime-chan's Ribbon where they're just like going around their school and doing like hijinks, right?
Yeah.
So Sailor Moon is kind of, or not, it ends and you kind of have these elements of like, you know, she sees herself as Sailor Moon and like what she can be when she's Usagi, but it's never really like as kind of clear that this is achievable without magic as it is in like Doremi, where that's kind of literally the point, right? Like the point all kind of get magic because they have something specific they want to achieve. Like Doremi in the first episode, she's like, oh, I want to be able to ask out the boy I like, but I'm too nervous. And so she thinks that she has to have magic. Oh my God,
dude. The way they bring that back full circle by the end. So good.
Oh, dude, the last episode of Doremi is such a fucking gut punch.
Oh, yeah.
Like, even
don't
if you,
spoil Levi.
No, I'm not. I'm saying, even if you like
literally everyone else listening to this that has not seen Doremi all the way through.
Even
don't
if you watch Naisho after Dokkan, like
the final episode of Naisho is also like just like you can't go wrong with the final episode of Naisho or Dokkan as far as like ending the series thematically, like just perfectly.
I don't even think,
but you really should watch Dokkan last.
Yeah. I don't even think the last episode of Naisho is even like the hardest gut punch of Naisho even.
It's not, but it is like thematically it's like, oh, okay, this is the end of Doremi.
Yeah. I don't know, for me like Naisho was like kind of like a softer
end of Doremi Gellion.
Yeah.
Doremi Evangelion.
Whereas like literally the last episode, like I feel like it was almost like unfair. Like I was like, you know what you're doing. Why did you do this to me? But it's so fucking good.
It's not even that last. It's like the last 5 episodes of Dokkan. They just like it keeps you get like this pit in your stomach. It's just like constantly building to it.
Yeah, like I would say the last stretch of 10 episodes are just constant like high tier episodes.
Yeah.
Like I think episode 40 is that?
Yeah,
that's a Hosada episode.
Yeah, that's the Mamoru Hosada episode.
Yeah, I don't.
He also did
like
49
in that stretch.
He did 49 too. Yeah, just genuinely 2 of the greatest anime episodes ever created.
This show is so fucking good.
I will say, and I think this maybe speaks to like a broad sort of appeal here. Is I have a quote. I have a quote from the former CEO of 4Kids. Alfred R. Kahn.
Don't do it.
I hope it's not the quote that I'm thinking of.
Yeah, where he says that the designs are pretty, so they appeal to girls, but the characters are very sexy, so boys like them. What?
Oh my god. Yeah, I remember
Did
that.
they watch the same show?
Yeah, maybe mix it up with Sailor Moon or something. I don't understand the. Oh god!
I sure hope, because Jesus.
I don't know how you look at those designs and go, yeah.
Everybody should watch.
Yeah,
Ocean
everybody.
Doremi.
Well, yeah, everybody watch it. Levi, you watch it as soon as we're done with this podcast.
All right.
Okay, that's your homework. By next episode.
Next episode.